Yes.
Live.
We are
Okay.
now live. Yes.
Yes. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone in the audience, depending on where you're joining us from. You're welcome to today's episode of Let's Talk Scholarships. Today we'll be talking about the Chevening Scholarship. If you are one of our regular viewers, you would have followed us during the one of our last sessions a few weeks ago, where we did an introduction to the Chevening Scholarship, brief and general introduction to the Chevening Scholarship. So today's session, that was before the scholarship application opened in early this month. So now that the application is open and people have had their hands on the application portal and started filling in their details, today's session is a follow-up to be a more practical guide to what you would be doing in your applications. We'll be talking more importantly on the four essay questions that form part of the application, because those are the major criteria that make or mar your application, in addition to every other detail that you filled. So your responses to the essays are very critical to determining whether or not you will be a successful applicant. That is why today's session would focus on mostly on just the four essays. But if you have any other questions that you have that you might have thought of or might have come up while you were navigating through the application portal, you can also put them in the chat and we will take them up as we go along. So already we have an audience on Facebook, we have our audience on YouTube, we have our audience on LinkedIn, because we are streaming on all these platforms at the same time. So I just want to welcome everyone to today's session. If you can, please drop your name and where you're joining us from, your country or the city you're joining us from, in the comment section, so that we have a good feel of the audience and know who we are speaking to. And yeah, so that's how it's going to be. So today's session, like I said, we're going to focus on the essays. So we're going to take the essays one after the other. For those who may not know, who may be first-time applicants, there are four essays that make up the Chevening Scholarship. For those who might be applying for the second or third or fourth or whatever time, you already have some sort of knowledge of the way the application is. So we just hope that from the whatever we're going to discuss today, you will get some tips on what you can do to your previous application to make it better and to scale through the application process. So I did introduce myself at the beginning. For those who don't know me, my name is Buchi. I was a Commonwealth Scholar at the University of Leeds in 2022. I also applied for Chevening. I was unsuccessful. So I'm going to be approaching this discussion from a position of what I did wrong, because I've come to realize some of the things that I did wrong. So it's always good to hear the stories of those that got it right and also those that got it wrong. And then you can have a robust understanding of what the application process is like. Most scholarships are very similar. In I think one of the key factors is always understanding what is the aim of this scholarship, what is the underlying conditions with which people want the people that are providing the scholarship are looking for candidates. What are they looking for? What do they want to achieve by giving out the scholarships? Because it's not, they're not just giving you money or sponsoring your education for the sake of it. There is something that they want to achieve behind. And when you can show that in whatever application you're doing, that is what makes you an outstanding candidate. Yeah. So here with me in the studio is 𝐒𝐤𝐬. I will allow her to introduce herself. So let me allow you to have the microphone. I've spoken for quite some time now.
Thank you, Buchi. So my name is 𝐒𝐤𝐬 Masano. I was at University of East Anglia, just graduated this year from 2020. I'm a Chevening scholar from 2022-2023. I studied MA International Development. So I, just like Buchi, I also applied for the Chevening as well as Commonwealth Scholarship. Fortunately enough, I got both scholarships and I selected the Chevening. So here I am. So I am coming in as a Chevening scholar, but also the other time I also come in as a Commonwealth awardee. So yeah, that's me essentially.
Yeah, thank you, 𝐒𝐤𝐬. So, just so the audience knows, you're in safe hands. You know, you have 𝐒𝐤𝐬, who was a Chevening scholar, so she's here to tell us what she did right, while I will tell you what I did wrong, and then you can have all that information to yourself and make a wonderful application. like I said at the beginning, you need to understand the underlying factors between whatever you're applying for so that you'll be able to get a good understanding. I think I applied for Chevening in 2021, and that was, I think that was the first time I got to know about the Chevening scholarship very briefly. Didn't do much study, went into the portal, saw what was there, filled what I thought was the best answers. I mean, it was the best answers I could come up with at the time. Submitted the application, and then didn't get any response. So sometimes you get, unfortunately, sometimes you get no response at all. But once the interviews start happening and you don't see, and you're not called up for an interview, you know that you weren't selected. So I had to go back, look at my applications, and see what went wrong and what went right. And I can say that if I look at my applications, I can say now it wasn't really a good application at the time because I didn't really understand what the Chevening scholarship was trying to achieve at the time. But I think some of the learnings I took from that is what I applied to my Commonwealth application the next year, which was successful. So it's always a learning curve. Always good to understand. If you've applied before, don't think you can't get it. I know people that got it on the second attempt. I know people that got it on the third attempt. I think I know someone that got it on their fourth attempt as well. So it's all about improving, learning, getting better as you go along. So whatever mistakes you made in the past, if you've applied before, you just have to correct it and then move ahead from there. Yeah. So yeah, before we move ahead, I think we have Raphael just joined us in the studio, so I'm going to allow him to do a brief introduction. You just tell us your name, where you studied, maybe what you're doing now, where you are, how your journey has been in the scholarship space. So yeah, Raphael, over to you.
Hi everyone, my name is Raphael, and I am currently pursuing my PhD in civil and environmental engineering here in the University of Massachusetts Amherst. My master's program was in water and sanitation, and I got all these degrees through scholarships. So far, one thing I can tell you is that it's been very amazing studying. Should I say for free? I don't know. But no, it's been amazing, for you to study why your tuition and living expenses is being covered. So it's been very wonderful, and I think yeah, I've been enjoying it.
Okay. Thank you, Raphael. So we will be moving straight into the discussion. So I'll try to give a brief overview of what Chevening is for those who are joining that may not have joined the past webinars, who don't really understand what Chevening is. I'll try to give a very brief overview. We also have previous webinars we've done on this, so you can always go back and watch those because they're always available online. So I won't go into much detail. The detail will be when we start discussing the essay writing. So the Chevening Scholarship is a scholarship based in the UK. So the scholarship is for master's study in the UK, a 1-year master's study in the UK to be precise. And it is funded by the UK government through the FCDO, the Federal Commonwealth and Development Office. It is for members of Commonwealth nations. And they select every country within the Commonwealth has a quota or a particular number of Chevening scholars that they are assigned every year. So you have a selection panel within your country. So if your country has 20 slots for the Chevening scholarship every year, you have a selection panel within your country that chooses who those 20 people are going to be. The first step in the process would be to submit this online application. So you fill your details, your essays, and all that. Once that's done and the application portal is closed, there will be a review of all the information that you filled. Then after that, there will be a selection process where some people will be shortlisted for an interview session within the country of application. So they will shortlist candidates that they will invite for an interview session. And you will also go and answer questions based on whatever you have submitted in the online portal. After those questions have been answered and you've been through the interview session, they will now call back to say, oh, you've been successful, or you get the other side of the coin. Unfortunately, you've not been successful. And then, whoever is being successful will now be prepped to leave their country, come to the UK, study. Yeah. So key points to highlight. Chevening scholarship is strictly for study in the UK, strictly for a master's degree that is 1 year in a university in the UK. That's very important context to make. So you can't use the Chevening to study anywhere else, and you can't use this Chevening scholarship to study a PhD or study a master's program that's more than 1 year in duration. Very important points to note. All the eligibility criteria is stated on the Chevening portal. So if you go to their website, you would be able to see all the eligibility criteria. There are other things that are also listed there. There are different other conditions that you have to meet up with. But I just kind of rolled out the basic ones that everyone needs to know. So that being said, if, like I said at the beginning, if you have any questions as we go along, just put them in the comment section and we'll try to take them on as we go. So introduction to the essay writing. So in addition to all the details you're going to fill in the portal, and my hope is that whoever has started an application at this point has gone into the Chevening portal and gone through the information that is there so that you know what is required of you to fill. And if there are any documents that are required for you to upload, you also know, so that you start getting those documents ready. I wouldn't go into stating what the requirements are, because from year to year things can change. So the things that were the requirements in 2021, if I say this, and that are the requirements now, when I've not gone to check the present portal now, and I think they did a revamp of the application portal from one of the announcements I saw on Chevening's website. So I think the portal they are using this year is different from the one that we used far back in the day. So I think they constructed a new portal to make things easier to navigate. So I won't like to assume that I know what is in the new portal, because obviously I've not gone there. But as an applicant, you can go there, explore the portal, see what is required, and then, if you have any questions, you can come back before deadline to submit. Last piece of advice before we go into the essays proper is, please do not wait until the last day to submit your application. It's a very, very big mistake that people make. Do not wait until the last minute of the last day. They say it closes on so date by 15:59, and you want to submit at 15:57 or at 15:58. Please, that is you playing with the devil. Do not be tempted to do that, because it's possible that when you click submit on your computer, before the internet connection actually pushes your data across, the timer on the portal might have timed out and locked the portal, so your submission will not go through. Also, there's also the possibility that you get the dates mixed up. I know one person that's happened to. The date was supposed to be on the 15th, and the person has borne in mind that is on the 16th. The person has filled everything he needs to fill on the portal, but has decided to wait until the 16th to press submit. Coming to the portal by 12 noon on the 16th, further that the portal has been closed, because they closed by 4 p.m. on the 15th. So things like that do happen, which is why I always advise people, make sure you try to submit 1 or 2 days in advance. If you've prepared everything and you're comfortable with whatever you've submitted, be confident that you've done your best and go and submit. Also, it's also advisable to write your essays outside the portal. Write your essays in a Word document, change, edit, and do whatever. And once you're happy, copy and paste over into the portal. The portal is in such a way that you can log in, fill details, log out, come back tomorrow, log in again, edit, add a few other things, log out until the final day. I think you get an ID that you can always use to log in once you create a profile. So those are very, very important points. Before we go into the essays proper, I don't know if any of the other speakers want to say any other thing before we start talking about the essays in detail.
Yeah, I think just to add to what you have said, one other thing is to just go back to the Chevening website to read the guidance properly, because, as you said, they have revamped the way we were using the past few years in terms of how the application portal was. So, and also they have created like a special place on the website where everything else has been signposted like chronologically from the application stage, what you need to expect from the interview stage, and everything else has been put in such a way that you find information. There are also tips and tricks there. What we are going to tell you is our experiences, but there are also tips and tricks that are coming in from the Chevening officers. And at the same time, also do follow the UK pages in your countries, because they also offer updates from time to time. So, and also follow the 𝐓𝐶Duo official 𝐓𝐶Duo page, because they also offer updates in what they are doing. And I've seen in one of the announcements that they are also going to be running these webinars throughout. And the first one is starting on the 28th of August. So do take note of that, because that is coming in from the horse's mouth. Ours are just our own experiences, but here they are Chevening officers engaging with applicants this year. So take note of those dates, go to their pages, follow them, and if they are not coming on your feed, just once in a while go and check on those pages, because you're going to get updated information from those pages. Please, as Buchi has said, make sure that you lead the guidance to the team, because things change every year. So make sure you read and read and read everything you can find. And the Chevening website has everything covered from application to the whole process. So yeah, that's what I can add.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. So we will move straight into discussing the 4 essays now. I can see some questions are popping in the chat. We'll come back to them when I think some of them we might answer on the way, but we'll still come back to them once we are through. We're looking at the essay questions. The first thing you need to know if you're a first-time applicant is that there are 4 essay questions as part of the Chevening scholarship application. The first one is what we call the leadership essay. The second one is what is called the networking essay. The third one is what is called your study in the UK essay. And the fourth one is what is called your career plan essay. So yeah, that's to put it briefly. So 4 essays, one talking about leadership, one talking about networking, one's talking about your study in the UK, and one's talking about your career plan. So these 4, usually 4 of them will be a maximum word count of 500. But like I said, go and check what the guidance is now. But from past applications, it's usually minimum of 100 words, maximum of 500 words for each essay. So altogether, it's about a 2,000 word essay for the application. So we will talk about the first one first, the leadership essay. And if you have gone to the portal, I don't know what the prompt is now, but I'm guessing it will be quite similar to the previous prompt. And I know that the previous prompt is written this way. Chevening is looking for individuals who will be future leaders or influencers in their home countries. Explain how you meet this requirement using clear examples of your own leadership and influencing skills to support your answer. So that's the prompt. Chevening is looking for individuals who will be future leaders or influencers in their home countries. Explain how you meet this requirement using clear examples of your own leadership and influencing skills to support your answer. So this is a very important point, and I know the other speakers will also chip in when I finish making this brief explanation. But the first thing you see is they're asking about future leaders, and they want you, and I think one of the important points is using clear examples of your own leadership and influencing skills to support your answer. So basically, you need to write an essay that tells them that you are a leader currently or in the past in whatever sphere or in whatever organization or whatever group you found yourself in before, you've had leadership skills, you've done some leadership in one capacity or the other, and these are practical examples of where and when you did those things. So if that makes sense, you have to understand where the prompt is coming from. So we talk a lot about things like the SMART approach and the STAR approach when you're writing essays. And when you are approaching this type of essay, you need to make sure that what you're writing is very clear and very concise. You have just 500 words. Uh, I think the usual guidance is 2 to 3 examples should make sense. Uh, One example, you might have one very nice example, but you don't want to tell them that you've been a leader just once. You don't want to create the impression that you've been a leader just once. You want to create the impression that you've done leadership at various points in your life. Because if you're going to project yourself as a future leader, it wouldn't start after you've done your UK masters. It has to have started already. You have to have already started doing something. So you're a leader, you just need the masters to improve your skill set so that you can continue leading in the fields of your choosing. So that is the point. Another point is you need to be a future leader or influencer in your home country. So if you've done some leadership that is outside your home country, while it might be good to mention, if you have examples that are focused within your home country, I think those are stronger points to use, because you don't want to be an applicant from, let's say, Nigeria, for example, where I'm from, and you're giving an example of something that you did in Switzerland, because the context is different, the background is different. And if you're telling them that you've not led in Nigeria, but you've led in Switzerland, then you're not as equipped as someone who has done leadership within Nigeria, because someone that has done leadership within Nigeria understands the local context and the local setting and has also experienced it in that environment. And that is why they have designated number of awardees for each country, because they want leaders from each country to emerge. So I would say that a national example, whether it is at a national level, at a secondary level, regional level, local level, within your community, within your social group, within your church or a religious group or whatever, how big, how small it is, whether in your school, whether at your workplace, you know, but it's something that has a local context in the sense that it's from your country. I think that is an important point that you need to go off. I think I mentioned SMART and STAR. So for the Chevening scholarship, I usually go with the STAR approach better, because the STAR approach talks more about something more practical. STAR approach, to me, I don't know if other people will agree, but when you're using the STAR approach, is because you're writing something that's happened in the past. And when you're using the SMART approach, is because you want to write about something in the future. So if you want to write, if you're writing about a future goal, for example, you talk about SMART. It's, it has to be measurable, it has to be achievable, those things are there. But when you're talking about something that you've done in the past, you're trying to explore an example that you've written in the past. Those factors are also important, but I think what's important is that you set the scene for the situation. What was the situation? Why were you a leader? Why was leading important? Or how did you come into that leadership position? What is the context around the organization you're leading? Provide some kind of situational context. Were you the president of this organization? Were you the leader of this group? Were you given this task to lead this group in your workplace? Were you, you have to present a situation to let people know what exactly that's why I said, if you have national examples, this is how you show that it's a national example. You occupy this position as social person, or even if there was no official position, you took up the responsibility to lead this group to accomplish a particular goal. It could be that you were chosen, it could be that you were elected, it could be that you volunteered, it could be that you took up the responsibility. All of these are different ways leaders emerge. So you can use examples from across the board on that. The T in the STAR approach is task. So you have to talk about, so you're writing about a clear example. You have to talk about, you've given them the situation, the context, the organization, the group, whatever the group is trying to achieve, or why you're a member, or why you're a leader in that group. Then you need to give them the task. What is the task that the group is undertaking, that you're leading? It can be a long-term vision of the group. Maybe you occupied the position of of, you are in a position for leading this group for 3 years or for 2 years, and then there was a 2 year goal or there was a 1 year goal. That can be the task at hand. Or it could be that you occupied the position for a few weeks and it was a very short term thing, and that's the task. The organization could have existed for a very long time, but you were in that leadership position for a few weeks to achieve a particular task. What was that task? Set out the task properly so that it makes sense. The next one is action. You've explained what the situation was, you've explained how you got into that position, you've explained what people are trying to achieve, the task at hand. Then the action now becomes, what did you do? What was your own action as an individual? Not what did the group do, not what did the organization do, not what did the team do, but what did you do? Because the essay is about you. You said you're a leader. What did you do? I mean, obviously, you worked with a team, you worked with a group of people to achieve something, but what specifically was your own role in all that? It's not a team, it's not a team report. You're not writing about teamwork. You're writing about how you led and influenced whatever happened. So, what actions did you take towards achieving that task in that situation? It could be that you were the one that organized the meetings, you are the one that reached out to a few of your contacts, you are the ones that led to a particular connection that raised some funding, you are the one that figured out which sites a particular intervention should work out with, you are the one that interfaced with the government, you are the one that interfaced with senior leadership. Whatever task, whatever action you yourself performed towards achieving that task in that situation, you need to showcase it because you're writing about yourself. And the last part, the R, is about the result. So, what resulted out of this action that you took? You took an action to achieve a task in a particular situation. What was the result? Was there a positive result? Was there a negative result? How is the result measured? How can you evidence that this result was achieved? Because it's not about I think another point I need to at this point I need to say, please be honest in whatever you're writing. It's a very important point. Don't make things up, especially because if you go for the interview and you made things up, you have to answer about made up things. But I'm not. It's not a matter of downplaying what you've done. I mean, if for example, you were a student and you noticed that some of your colleagues were struggling, and you decided to set up tutorial classes for other students, for your fellow students, your classmates, or even other students that are in lower class than yourself, because a particular course or a particular is causing a problem. Then that was a situation. You took up a task, you did an action, you thought, what was the result? Are you sure that you teaching made an impact? How can you say that it made an impact? Did more students begin to improve? Was there better understanding? When results came out where most of your students pass, 50% of the students made a very good result compared to last year. So there has to be a kind of evidence to back up what you're saying. It doesn't have to be concrete evidence written in stone, but you have to be able to show that, okay, when you did this thing, you had a look back to see if what you did had an impact, because that's a very important point. Whatever you do as an action, as a leader in this particular situation, has to have an impact, positive or negative. It could be that you did this thing and you didn't achieve the result that you set out to achieve. That's when you add another R at the back, and that becomes a reflection. So if you learned a lesson because you wanted to get 50%, but at the end you got just 30%, you can now reflect on what happened to the other 20%. Why weren't you people able to achieve the other 20%? And it was because of X, Y, and Z. And that makes it, practical. And that makes it them to understand that yes, you're a leader, and yes, you understand that things are not linear. You can have progress, and you can have progress incrementally. And sometimes it doesn't work out the way it's supposed to work out. But you have the insight or the foresight to look back and know, okay, this is what went wrong and this is what we're going to do better next time. So I will let the other speakers contribute to that, because I think I've said the part that I know about. So I'll allow Chinwenwe or Raphael to go ahead. Who wants to go first? Should we do ladies first, or should we, Raphael? Should we take the stage and allow? Okay, he said no. So Chinwenwe, you are next to go.
Okay, all right. So yes, you have talked quite a bit about the leadership. So the star approach always is for me, I feel like it's the best one in terms of approaching the leadership and influence essay. So my only additions to this is the question it says leaders or influencers. So that means you can have an example where you look at the leadership in terms of you leading something or leading some group. What did you do? So an example of that would be something that you led, for example, some kind of work that was assigned to you, and what was the outcome. Just like Butch's example, in terms of you acted in terms of teaching other students, teaching other your colleagues some kind of a task that it was impacting maybe an organization, maybe it was impacting the students' performance. That's a kind of you taking a leadership to act on a situation which you felt it needed someone to act on it. So you led in terms of doing that kind of work. But there are also other examples where it says influencing. So there is another part of leadership, but you are influencing something. So, for example, because of your actions that you took, then maybe they influenced some kind of a change in terms of maybe in an organization, or influencing like if it is at school, even in your communities. Maybe you can influence the way community leaders do their work because of there was a certain problem in your community, and you mobilize some people to act on that, to go to the leaders to tell them this is what needs to change. And then the community leaders were influenced in a way, they changed some of the things that are happening in the communities. So the examples can come in multiple ways. For example, you can put in an example of influencing, also an example like the way I've talked, the previous example, that you just led and then there was a result that came out of it. So as Buchi has said also, the good practice at least to have 3 examples. And when you say 3 examples, it means it shows you as a versatile leader. So you can have an example in your workplace, an example you did whilst you were in school, an example you did in your community, an example you did in your religious sphere, an example that you did or anywhere else. So when it comes, but then I also wanted to touch on that leadership in terms of if you have an international experience. Most of the times, a good practice is if you have an international experience of leadership, that ties back to your like your country. You can also talk about that. Doesn't necessarily mean it's limiting you. Like for example, you were a leader in terms of influencing some UN SDGs, and you went to the UN based on your organization or some work that you're doing in the country. That one makes much more sense because it's tying into international standards, as well as some of those experiences will tie into your also country, because your country is also benefiting from the experiences that you're doing. So you just have to have a thin line in terms of selecting those leadership experiences that you feel resonate well with you as a country. Because in terms of Chevening, they are looking for someone who is going to be a leader in their home country. So it's like grooming you to go back to your country to take those leadership positions, and then also influence some of the way, like the maybe I would say like policies in future as you're growing in your leadership. So the thing is, they don't want you to be a leader, like an influential leader right now, but you should have examples where you have led even at that local level, and they'll know that if you are leading at this local level right now, that means you can be a leader in future at that higher levels. Should you be given opportunities to be in those higher positions, you can also influence, you can also lead. So that's the essence in terms of approaching this. So in terms of the good practice, at least have 3 examples, and then explain them in relation to also what you do. So if you can also explain some of these examples in relation to also what you are passionate about. So I also encourage to also put in some of the work that we do as people, the things that we are passionate about. An example of such kind of examples will be good at that leadership example, and then all these other essays, because it creates a story about you as a person, and about the type of leader that you are, and about the sector that you want to lead as you go forward in. And also it creates that kind of if you go to the other essays, as we are going to the other essays, that creates like an opening to how you're going to your career. So the person leading from the leadership, they should know which sector you are. So putting in an example of the work that you do as well also makes it much more easier for the person to identify you as a leader in what sector, in what do you do essentially as a person. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Raphael, anything to add?
Okay, I would like to start by saying I am not a Chevening scholar, but I did apply for the scholarship the same year I applied for the Commonwealth Share Scholarship, and I can't remember the stage where I got eliminated. I know I didn't get to the interview stage, but so I don't. I know there's a couple of stages, Then I don't know about now, but I didn't get to the interview stage when I got eliminated. So, but one thing I want to say here is that people usually copy essays from other people, right? So they are like, "Oh, give me your essay. Let me look at your essay." And most like I've heard people review Commonwealth essays, and I've seen the same type of essay from different people, and it's not difficult for if I can easily like detect that, other people can. So what I would want to say is that be original in whatever you're writing, and know that these people actually read your essay. Someone told me, there are so many people applying for this thing. There are thousands and millions of people. They won't have time to read it. It's their job to sit down and read. Somebody comes to the office and starts reading. That's somebody's job. So they will read it. And so if you're not unique in your own writing, they can easily spot it. Secondly, when you write in a different, like, I don't know about other panelists here, but for me, if I start reading an essay, I will know if one person wrote the same essay or more than one person wrote the same essay because of the writing style and how it flows. So when you start reading initially, at the point the essay begins, still the same essay, but the writing style begins to change. So you can easily tell that it's either this person wasn't the original writer or this person wrote these essays at two different times. Maybe you wrote, maybe left it for after like maybe 1 month and you came back, then your writing style would have changed. So they also use, I think they use what's it called, similarity check now to even detect plagiarism. They run these things through. So most times people are qualified, but they don't get selected because their essays were plagiarized. So that's something I think people need to keep in mind, right? So whenever they are writing, so there's nothing wrong with you sharing your essay with somebody to look at it and maybe learn one or two things from your essay, but trying to replicate somebody's essay, maybe in your own context, right? Maybe this person was like when Buchi talked about like helping students who were not doing well, and then so you try to now use that same scenario to craft your story. Maybe your story was you did something different, but instead of sticking to your story, you not want to talk about maybe he helps students in engineering, then you want to talk about helping students in maybe mathematics or physics or something else, and his essay is in the Chevening database. So when they run your essay, it's going to be a match with his own. They won't contact you to say, oh, you plagiarize. No, you just won't scale through the next phase because you committed plagiarism. So it's something you need to keep in mind. So be original in your writing. Pass around your essays, to just learn one or two things, but do not copy anybody's essay. Like for me, I would say write your essay first the way you want to write it. Then you now take your time to improve on the essay, because one mistake people make is they want to look at other people's essay first before they start writing their own essay. But what I would advise is write your own the way you think you know how to write. Then you can start improving on the essay every day. Another thing is people struggle with a 500 word limit. I've seen people who say it is difficult for me to fit in my story in 500 words. I actually tell them it is even easy for you to fit your story in 100 words. Now, again, there are human beings reading this thing, they easily get bored. So if you want to capture all your stories, like everything, how you were walking on the road and all, then 500 words becomes too small for you. So you need to bring the major points and then take time to keep editing your essay. Sometimes you can see like there are some words that you repeated severally. You need to cut them. Read it. If you don't want to, you can give it to somebody else and say, my goal is to tell all this thing down to 500 words. Then the person will tell you, oh, you repeated several things here because you were trying to make it lengthy or wordy. So take your time and fit it into the 500. If you can, make it maybe like 400, because these people, they shorter. I don't know, I can't speak of Chevening, but I know when I'm reading something, I am easily drawn to somebody whose essay is shorter than to somebody whose essay is longer, because then I already have bias. This is looking too long to me. But if yours is shorter, I want to read it. So if yours is shorter and you're making sense, then I think I don't know. Again, I don't know about Chevening, but if it's me, I'm the one reviewing. I have to be very honest with you that I would prefer to review somebody's essay, somebody whose essay is shorter. I'm not saying don't maximize your 500. I'm only saying don't struggle to maybe hit 500 because I said 500. No. If your story is 450, do 450. If it's 400, do 400. There's no guarantee that that's why they gave you that limit between these. They say minimum 100, maximum 500. So anything in between, they are going to accept it. The most important thing is the story you're trying to pass there. That's the much I can say now.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I think very important point there that always come up. Plagiarism is a very important point. And I will also add to that, don't use AI to write your essay, because I think that's the new trend now. You think that you take Chevening's prompt and throw it into an AI bot, and then the AI bot will bring something out. And somebody told me, just do it, just make it an iterative process. Take the prompt, put it in the AI to give you something. Take that one, send it back to AI, tell it to review. It will change it again, change it again, change it again until nobody can recognize it's made by AI.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll be
Yeah.
the first person to tell you that. Unfortunately for you, that's not going to work, because as you have this idea in your head, the scholarship body also has the same idea in their head as well. So as you're
Yeah.
doing it, so as you're also doing that, they too will take your essay. When I was in school in 2022, that was when ChatGPT became very popular in November, December 2022. At least that's when a lot of people started using it. I think that's when it was first released to the public, and a lot of people were making use of it and all that. And I know back in school then, they had to call some series of meetings to checkmate the use of AI in schoolwork. They didn't have an official system in place back then. So immediately they began to put a system in place to work with Microsoft, who was the provider of the packages that the university was using, and every other body, and I think Turnitin as well, to be able to have an AI checker embedded in the similarity checker as well. But beyond that, they were now doing their own individual checks on the work that was being submitted. So, because obviously, as ChatGPT came out, AI checkers also came out. And one of my lecturers also said that he would take his assignment and also put it inside ChatGPT or BARD and see the result that ChatGPT or BARD will come out and feed that into the similarity checker, so that when you submit your work, the similarity checker can now match your work against whatever ChatGPT has produced. And he said he did like 5 or 7 times and brought out 7 different responses and fed it into the similarity checker. And then, so, and some people may have been flagged for plagiarizing for that reason. I cannot say, but it is just one of those things that you need to know. Don't try to be, don't try to be too smart, because the truth of the matter is an original story is an original story. And when you write an original story, that's why when they call you for the interview, you will still tell them that original story that you've written. The people that will interview you have read whatever essay you've written, and your discussion with them will be based on the content of that essay. So an original story is an original story. It cannot change. The same way you know an original story is the same way whoever is reviewing knows an original story as well. I think another important point is about people reading or not reading your essay. To be honest, you don't need someone to review your essay for you to scale through. I know a lot of people that their essays were not reviewed. When I did my Commonwealth application, my essay was not reviewed by anyone. But you can have someone sense check. There's something called a sense check. You can give someone your essay to look at to say, does what message does this essay, these 400 words I've written, what message do you get out of it? And the person can, some people, because the person may not be a professional in that field, in the field of study that you're going into, or the person may not be a professional in reviewing this type of essays. Person might tell you it sounded boring, or he felt it's too lengthy, or he at some point he couldn't really understand what you were trying to say, or at this point he felt like you were repeating yourself. Those things are also important feedback that you can take. This is something that a friend, a brother, a sister can even do for you, because it's writing. Everyone reads. So anyone that can read a story can be able, because essentially you're writing a story. And like Raphael said, people are inclined to read shorter things, which is true. But at the same time, if you write 500 words because your story is very interesting and you write it very well, if someone can read 300 words and feel exhausted, but read your 500 and feel captivated and still want to continue reading what you have to say because you've written it in such a way that it's easy to follow, it's simple to understand. You don't need to use lots of big words. I think that's one important thing. You don't need to, it's not a proof of English language test. You don't need to use lots of big words to write. Right? Make it simple. And I think another important thing is when we talk about situation and context, understand that whoever is reading your essay most likely is based in Britain. It's most likely based in Britain. So some certain things you put down, think about local context, think about explaining it to someone who does not live in your country, who does not live in your community, who does not understand the organization you're talking about. Try to understand that point as well. So someone who has never worked in accounting, or someone who has never been to your country, or someone who has never been to your town, maybe there's a town problem you're trying to solve, and that's where you led. Someone who doesn't understand what that problem is, you need to write it in a very simple way that makes it make sense to whoever is going to read it, so that they can understand the. That's why you don't need to go into very technical details, and you don't need to go into a big use of English. You just make it a very simple point. You led. Everybody knows what leading means, or at least everyone should know what leading means. So you led in a particular sector, like Chimwe said initially. You need to show that. I think is the best examples are usually the ones that are linked to the course you want to study or the sector you want to go into. So, for example, if you're planning to do a master's in climate change or in the environmental space, and you've done something in the environmental space, either as a volunteer, either in your workplace, either with a group, with an NGO, with a corporate body, in partnership with a corporate body. Maybe you don't work for this body, but you've done it in partnership with them. That is a good example to include, even if you are not the number one person in the biggest team there. Maybe you led a team of 3 people, or you led a team of 5 people to accomplish a small assignment in 3 days or in 5 days. But it shows that you've done some leadership in that sector. In addition to, that's why you don't use one example, in addition to other examples that you've used. It helps because you're writing 4 essays, but you need to treat it like you're writing one long 2,000-word essay broken into 4 sections. So we've talked about leadership now. You've led in this sector or that sector. The next essay is going to talk about networking. How have you networked? How have you talked to people? How have you met with people? How have you used those relationships you've built with people to move things ahead? So let's say in your leadership essay, you mentioned that you raised $500 for planting of trees in your local community. That's a good thing to say. It's a good accomplishment. You planted trees, you helped the environment, you raised $500. Nice. How did you raise $500? You may not have the space to say it there. But when you come to networking, maybe it was through your superior at work. Maybe it was through a LinkedIn contact. Maybe it was through a cousin, or someone you know at church, or someone you knew from secondary school, or or one of your classmates, or one of your lecturers, or someone that you did an experiment with, or you did some research with, or someone that you met on Instagram, because or you follow someone's page on Instagram and you saw a funding opportunity and you tapped into that. That's how you got the funding. All these are networking opportunities. So now I'm talking about the second essay now. I'll read out the prompt soon. But all these are networking opportunities that you've harnessed and you've used to accomplish a goal. So still the same way I talked about the STAR approach: situation, task, action, result, review. So the result here is that you raised money. Remember in the leadership example, you were trying to say that you planted trees and you raised money to plant trees. That's it. That was the result there. That was the situation. You've painted some of the situation in that essay. So when you come to this next essay, you don't need to talk too much about planting trees and the situation behind planting trees. Your goal now is to talk about that $500 you raised and how it was raised. So you now need to start talking about how you developed the relationship with whoever, how you got the funding. Did you meet this person on LinkedIn because the person made a post, you made a comment, you sent the person a connection request, and then you guys moved on from there? How did that situation develop? Okay. From there again, you move on to things like, okay, so how did this person come to mind when you wanted to plant these trees? Or maybe it's because of you wanted to plant these trees and you were looking for funding that you found this person. So you need to paint that situation. And if the funding was the main driver for that connection, you need to state that out, explain how it came about, how you got in touch with this person, how you got the funding, because that's an action and result now. But you also need to talk about how this person benefited from that interaction, because it's not just about you reaching out to somebody and then getting funding and then the person is gone. How did you network with this person to build a relationship? And every relationship is two-sided. So maybe the person was trying to also plant trees, and then you are trying to plant trees. That's a mutual connection there. So the person had funding, but didn't have people on the ground to plant trees. You had the ability to organize people on the ground to plant trees, but you did not have the funding. That presents a situation for mutual collaboration. And then you were able to reach out to this person, build that relationship, plant the trees got planted, the person came or the person reviewed, there was some sort of results that came out of that, and then the relationship continued after that. You guys are now looking for the opportunity to plant more trees. The person maybe has more funding or is trying to get more funding. Or there's other project the person is trying to do that you're also working with the person to achieve, or you've referred the person to another person that helps the person to do something else. These are easy ways to show that this relationship is beneficial and is long lasting. I think that's a very important point to make, that you have a beneficial relationship and it's long lasting. That you met with someone, did something, and that's the end of the relationship. That's not a very good networking example, if you ask me, because that's the end. It was basically like, oh, I went to the market and I bought something from this person's shop, and that's the end. I've got what I wanted, I'm gone. If I never go back to that market again, I never see that person again, that's a lost relationship. That means that that's not part of your network. That was just a transaction. It's a one-off. So before I allow the other speakers to speak, let me just read out the prompt that we had before, so that we have a clear understanding of what we are trying to talk about. So for the second essay in networking, what's written here is: Chevening is looking for individuals with strong professional relationship building skills. Let me say it again: with strong professional relationship building skills, who will engage with the Chevening community and influence and lead. I think I need to be laying emphasis. You see, they've put influence and lead here, which is the subject of the first essay you've written. So you should have laid some context of how you can influence and lead as a person. Now they are telling you that they are looking for people with strong professional relationship building skills who will engage with Chevening community and influence and lead others in their chosen profession. Please explain how you build and maintain relationships in a professional capacity, using clear examples of how you currently do this, and outline how you hope to use these skills in the future. Okay, now we're moving ahead. So before we talked about leadership, what you've done, what you've been doing, what you're currently doing. Now here they added something extra. They said using clear examples of how you currently do this, which is present tense, and outline how you hope to use these skills in the future. So that we're now looking forward. So that's another important point that you need to understand about the context of these essays. So like I said, you need to show that you build and maintain relationships. So it's not just building, you build and then maintain. And then from there, you're able to Show them how you use these skills now and how those skills will be beneficial in the future, or how you're going to use these skills in the future. So those are very important points you need to touch on. Like I said, you must not link them to whatever examples you've given in the previous essay, but you should understand that whoever is reading these will probably read four of them at the same time. So don't let the person get caught off in the story. You know, when you're reading a book and you finish chapter one and then you're moving to chapter two, chapter two is a different topic altogether. But there's some relationship between what was said in chapter one and what you're about to read in chapter two. It's the same way when you watch a movie. You know, if you're watching a series, if you watch episode one, you have to come and you're watching episode two, you have to be able to relate what's happening in episode two with what happened in episode one. If you are not able to do that, then that movie is not going to be enjoyable, and you're going to lose interest because you can't really follow up the story. You know, maybe you have to now go back to episode one and now go through a few minutes of what happened and then come back. That's a very poor plot. So you need to be able to make it make sense. If I use that phrase, make it make sense. So when you're networking, yes, you're networking. Why? What's the context? So you've used some examples before, maybe as a student leader or whatever. I believe, this is my own personal opinion, I believe that if you've used examples as a student leader, you should show a networking example that took place while you were a student leader. It might not be the same situation that you've used in that leadership, but you should have something to show that during that period when you were leading in that capacity as a student leader, there was some sort of relationship building that was also going on at the same time to make it a wholesome story. But that's my own personal view. So I'll allow Chinwe to chip in at this point.
Yes. Thank you so much, Puchi, for that opening. Indeed, like in terms of networking, um, just like I explained in the previous essay, it's like you're creating a story about you. So if you are creating a story for the person to know you by just reading you on the paper, it means from the first essay, they read something about you in terms of your work or whatever, what else you do in the community. In the second essay, they should also find something. That's why they're saying that's why Bucci is saying, oh, if you are watching a movie, that means in episode two, you should find something that is linking to the first episode for you to continue to watch that. So I'm just going to summarize some situations or ways in which we can be thinking about the networking. It doesn't have to be big. So you can start thinking about, for example, if you're a recent graduate from the university days, what did you do? Where are the clubs that you are associating yourself with? Did you have any leadership positions, be it in the school union or any other clubs that are associated with your school? Did you have any leadership in those, or just being a member in that kind of in those clubs? You can also exercise networking. You can link some people in those clubs and show that as an example, because just being a member doesn't necessarily mean you cannot exercise leadership and being a member of something. So you can also think of those kind of ideas. And also you can also be thinking about your community. What is it that you do in your community that you associate yourself with? How have you done, like how have you networked with people in those communities? And also find examples of where the networks have resulted in someone else being helped, or yourself being helped, or like the wider community benefiting from those kinds of networks that you have also done or connected your grouping that you are in. And also think about your workplace. Have you found yourself in a situation where the organization wants to do something, but it's you who has a connection to someone else which can benefit the organization? So that's you as exercising as a leader, because this networking is building upon that leadership as well. It's also, it's like the strong words in this essay. It's like for you to have strong professional relationship building to influence and lead others. So as you can see, Chevening is all about leadership. So even in the networking, they also want to see that leadership happening, but it's happening as you using your networks. How do you associate with people? How do you make sure that those networks that you build are long lasting and they are beneficial to you the other person as well as the community around you benefiting because of the connection. And also, you can also look at some professional bodies that you belong to. So in any field, you find yourself that you connect to association of pharmacists, association of accountants, association of journalists, or the gender what, or national education something. So look at those associations where you belong to. How have you used those networks in those associations to help you even in your work, for example? So you might find that, if, for example, you are working, yeah, as a journalist, but you belong to National Association of Journalists, but in your capacity as a newspaper reporter, there was something that you wanted to report on and your organization was stuck as to how do you find information for this. But you remember, you have a network, the Association of National Journalists or something, 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 and you use that network to feed you with information, which you then wrote a very nice piece, and then that piece influenced something in terms of some kind of that newspaper article that you wrote, it influenced some government to do something, so it is coming in from your network and how you use that in your professional setting, and at the end of it all, the result is influencing some kind of a policy, or influencing some kind of, like, people started talking about it and the government had to act on that. So that's you using your network to lead or influence on some of those kind of things that are happening around you. So think through of the networks that you belong, think through of the past networks that you did, and make sure that in your network, you should know that networking examples can be what you benefited as you as a person, what the other person benefited from you, as well as the community. How do they benefit from the two of you having that network? And also, as a rule of the thumb, at least make sure you think of various examples and where you exercise that network in it, and you showed any leadership or influencing example in that, and then choose at least the best three. And it also shows you the same thing as I said, the versatility of you as a leader. And as the previous speaker said, you don't have to write the same example from the first one and the second one. You just twist it. The action is the same, the context is the same. What you add here is just the sort, which is, oh, now, as I said in my previous example, now I just went to Butch's profile, and then I saw that he's a tree planter, and then I contacted him and did this other one. As you have already read from the previous example, we planted 1,000 trees. No, that's not how we will craft these essays. They'll get bored. So they also say, do not repeat the answers that you mentioned in the previous one. You can add a connection line in terms of how this is coming in from your previous essays, but it doesn't have to be the whole paragraph from the previous essay and then you just add it. And then I contacted this other person to help me in this kind of fundraise for this. No, 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 no. Make sure that you also follow the STAR approach, put in the context, put in the situation, put in the actions, put in the results. And if you can, put in the learning. What did you learn from that? From that networking? You just adding a sentence to close up that paragraph will also make you stand out from the crowd. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Raphael. You seem like you have some points on your mind while she was talking.
No, no, not exactly. I was just agreeing with everything she was saying. So she has already done justice to everything. So there's no point for me to try to repeat what she already said. You said the same, something similar about how you should be able to connect your stories, but it's not compulsory. And she also did justice to that. So I think we're good. We should go to the next one.
Okay, yeah. So because of time, let's move on to the next one. I think the next two are a bit different because they are more forward facing. So the next one is the study in the UK essay, as we like to call it. Outline why you have selected your chosen 3 university courses and explain how this relates to your previous academic or professional experience and your plans for the future. Please enter new information and examples here and not duplicate the information you have entered on the work experience and education section of this form. I think that second part is a very important one. Now, for
Mm.
those who may not have started filling the form, when you go into the form to fill, they will ask you for your education history, and they will also ask you for your professional experience. You are supposed to have minimum of 2 years of working experience to apply for the Chevening scholarship, and that would be, and you will fill it as items on how many hours you've worked. So I think it's basically there's a minimum number of hours of work you would have done, which is necessarily supposed to be over a 2 year period. But obviously, if you've had more than 2 years, but you have the required number of hours, you're qualified to apply. If you've not had the qualified number of hours, it means that your application is not going to sit well because you're not going to pass the eligibility criteria. So that's one of the things you also need to look at. But basically, you filled in your work experience and you filled in your education experience. They have already seen that. So in this essay, you have 500 words. You don't need to start writing, I studied ABCD in the University of XYZ in the year 1234, graduated with so degree. That's a very poor use of the words that you have. They already see that in your remember, this is a wholesome application. They've read the application from top to bottom. So they already know what you studied in undergrad. They already know the university you went to. They already know the degree you graduated with. It's all there in the portal. So here they're asking you to outline why you have selected your chosen 3 university courses. I think this is where some explanation is needed because I think one of the questions I've seen previously is asking about whether you need to go and apply for admission in the universities. So let me try to clear that up briefly. So for this application, like I said in the beginning, the Chevening scholarship is for a master's degree, a 1 year master's degree in the UK. Now, you are submitting this application within this window between now and November, and some schools and some courses might not have started admission at that time. So what Chevening is going to do is that they will ask you to fill in 3 choices of universities and courses that you want to study. So you have a first choice. I want to study farming in the University of Essex. Second choice, I want to study farming science in the University of Edinburgh. Third choice, I want to study farming techniques in the University of Nottingham. Those are the 3 choices of universities that you're going with. These are the universities you're expected to apply to for admission. If the application has not started, you will apply after the Chevening scholarship may have closed. It is later on in the process that they will ask you for admission letters from those universities. They will not ask you for those as part of the form you're filling now. So don't bother too much about applying for admission. The only thing I would advise is this: go and check the universities and the courses that you want to fill in this application. Go and check the eligibility criteria on their website for admitting students and be sure that you meet the basic eligibility criteria. So if they are saying that they don't admit students from this background or from that background, although that's very rare, or they don't admit students with a degree from, because some countries, I think this is an unfortunate thing, but some countries, your first degree, your bachelor degree, is not an equivalent bachelor degree in the UK, and you will not be able to get a master's admission in some universities or in some courses with your bachelor degree from your home country. So you need to be sure that you will be able to get admission in these schools so that you don't fill in options, so that and Chevening gives you a scholarship, but you have no school to go to. Because Chevening will not force the school to give you admission if they give you a scholarship. If they give you a scholarship and you don't have admission, there's no school that has accepted you, they will take their scholarship and give it to someone else. That is the way it works. So you need to choose courses that you have a high chance of being admitted to. Very important, so that you increase your prospects. Second advice I will give is choose 3 courses that are related, because you can't be doing a master's in 3 different fields, or you can't be proposing to do a master's in 3 different fields. First of all, it means that you have to explain more why you're going in diverse directions, and that means you need more than 500 words to do that. Secondly, it means that your application will be disjointed because you'll be trying to grapple a lot of things at the same time. So, like when I was saying, I said you want to study farming here, you want to study farming science there, you want to study farming technology there. It's all around farming. The course title might not be exactly the same, but the content may be similar. So, whenever you're going to university's website to look at a course, don't look at the course title alone. Course title is a summary of what they are teaching, but go into the course content and see what modules are they taking. 2 courses can be farming, MSc farming, and MSc farming, but in one, they are teaching land use farming, and in the second one, they are teaching animal rearing. Both of them farming, but one is teaching land use and land use in general, or crop farming. The other one is teaching animal science, or it's basically teaching just about cows. Both of them may be farming, MSc farming. So you need to make sure that that context is there, because in this essay, you're going to talk about why you've chosen these 3 courses. And the easiest way to do that is to say, I want to achieve XYZ goal. One goal, I want to achieve XYZ goal. If you're talking about farming, maybe you want to help develop modern farming techniques in your local community. That's one goal, which can be accomplished with the 3 options that you've chosen. It makes it easy to explain. So the only thing you're now explaining is, I'm choosing this university because they study this module and they study that module, and that ties into XYZ goal that I want to achieve. You can now tie that goal to to 1 or 2 SDGs to make it more wholesome. So you want to improve farming use techniques in your local community to meet up with SDG 3, which says XYZ. You've stated that as a pre-context, and then you've chosen MSc in the University of Nottingham because in that program they study this and they study that, and they have this lab, or they have this professor that is an expert in this, or they have this module, or they have this program that they teach, and this and that. That means you've chosen this university for a reason. And you can also add that you like the city of Edinburgh because of it has some historical background, has some social aspect to it, so that is not just about, so that they understand that you really want to go to this school because you've thought about the long-term impact of what you're studying there, how you're going to use it in the future, and you've also thought about your time being there. So if there's one thing, it doesn't have, you can be just one sentence. If there's one nice thing you like about Edinburgh, which is why you've chosen the University of Edinburgh as your first choice, you can just put that there. So people always ask, okay, if it's 500 words and I'm writing about 3 choices, do I have to make it 150, 150, 150, so it's an equal split? Usually I say you can if you want to, but if I was the one reading your essay, if you say that this is your first choice and you say this is your second choice and you say that's the third choice, I would expect that the first choice will have more explanation because that's the place you actually want to go to. The other 2 are backups. So you need to tell me more about this first choice, why that's the actual place you want to go to, why that's the actual place that's going to give you what you exactly want. Then the second one, you just tell us that this is a backup and is also still a good option because it also provides XYZ. And then same with the third choice. You will only go to one of these institutions in the end. And so Chevening will ask you in the end, do you have admission for your first choice? If you say no, they will ask you, do you have admission for the second choice? Then you say yes. Okay, you will take the scholarship to the second choice. Do you have admission to your first choice? Yes. Okay, well, give me the scholarship, go to your first choice because that's the place that is actually having what you want. And that's the place you actually want to go to. And that's the place that we're expecting you to get exactly what you want out of the program. Second choice and third choice is a backup because, to me, it's basically because there may be 1 or 2 things that make your first choice unavailable. Maybe not because you didn't get the admission, but because the university didn't offer that course that year. It happens sometimes, especially if it is a very specialist course that's very rare. Sometimes they may not have the budget, or they may not have the student capacity, or they may not have the available staff. Maybe 1 or 2 of the core professors teaching in that course may be on sabbatical or something like that, and they may not be able to offer that course for that year. It happens sometimes. So instead of the university giving you a substandard education, they will just close the course for that year and come back next year when they have the proper resources to handle that course. So things like that happen. So you need to think about it in that context. let me stop here so that other people can also provide other perspectives.
Okay, as a norm, that's my cue to to join in the conversation. Yeah. So as you are speaking, I was just thinking about the first choice as being the one that you think is the university that you want to study. So I would say when you're doing the research, please do a thorough research as much as you can, and have maybe 6 or 10 universities listed, and you rank them. This is my first one up to the 10th one, you know. And then when you're filling the form, you'll fill the best three choices. And when you're filling the best three choices, that means you know that if I am to apply, in case you are submitting the application, and then you're doing the application to the universities later, because that also it's allowed. But when you're filling the application, make sure that the 3 universities are the ones that you feel when you do the application later, you're going to get the admission. The 7 other universities that you have left, because you've done the research, will also add as a backup, because they give you a grace to say we can come back and remove the universities and add some other universities only when you are shortlisted. After you have sent, it's done. But when you are shortlisted, you have the option of changing the universities during your interview stage. So that means before you go to the interviews, you must have applied at least one university from the 3, preferably the first choice, because that's the one that you feel this is the university that I want. And this is the university that I feel it resonates with my career, my passion, my profession, everything else. It resonates with your first choice. At least do make an application. But also do make applications to the other schools outside of the 3 choices. Just in case you have the option of changing, you can tap into that pool of the outside universities. And when it's time for the interview, you don't have to struggle to say which universities should I replace if I didn't have. Another person who I was supporting the other time had 3 universities, and at least 2 of them declined. The other one which they had offered them a place, they had this unconditional offer which she couldn't meet basing with the timelines that she had. But lucky enough, she had applied to other universities. So during the interview, she just took the one that she had an admission on, and replaced with the other ones that they had declined even before going to the interviews. So that does happen, because after the interviews, you don't have any other time for you to also change. So that's it. If you don't have an admission, even if you have the scholarship, they are going to give the next person who has the admission. So now that's the process in terms of trying to find the universities. And one other thing that I also we talked about that the previous session, is do not just go for universities just because they do not they have they do not request for IELTS, English language. And then, when you are given this scholarship and you see the amount that Chevening is investing in you, by that time, I tell you, the IELTS becomes peanuts, and you're going to find it. Even if you have to source the money from your relatives, you're going to find it. The best thing is go to the university, because at that time you now start to see the universities. You start to see University of Oxford was there. University of it was there at your fingertips. You could have applied. You had the chances of getting in, but because of IELTS, you just eliminated yourself not going there. But do make sure that you read thoroughly. Don't just go to because the universities here are also ranked. They are higher placed university, and there are those that are lower ranked. So don't just place yourself to a lower ranked university and go there with your Chevening scholarship. be ambitious, but at the same time be realistic. So that would be my advice. Ambitious and being realistic. So don't doubt yourself to go to a lower ranked university just because it has the IELTS taken out of that. Go for those universities that you feel are going to give you a better chance of being a leader that Chevening wants you to be in the future. Then when you go to how you're going to search for the universities, there are so many ways where you can also search for the universities. I think I have here. I'll just read. If we have time, I will pop into the link some of the ways, but there are so many other links that where you can also look for the university, like there's findmasters.com, you can find www.prospects UK, you can also find the complete universities guide. I will try to put a link into this so that you can also go to that. And also there are also the others, they're saying partner Chevening universities. What it means is when they're saying partner Chevening universities, it just means those universities have partnered with Chevening. They know that Chevening provides scholarships, and then they also, I don't know if there's any other fee or some kind of in terms of funding that the universities also do provide. I'm not so sure about that. We can always find out. But at least the Chevening knows that this university provides education in this UK. So that's one of the things. So when you're writing the essays, I remember when I proceeded to the interview stage, I didn't talk about the third or the second choice university. I was like, when I go to the UK, to the University of that time I was going to the University of Sussex. So I listed everything that I knew about University of Sussex. I listed everything. I listed everything I knew about Brighton as a city. I listed everything that I knew about the lectures, the department, even some of their research they were doing in the department. Anything that was linking to my career, my passion, what I wanted to learn from that. And I talked about that. And when I was talking, I was telling them, when I go to the University of Sussex, that was my talk throughout. And I listed as many reasons as I wanted, why I wanted that. And then for the others, I was like, okay, for these universities, I like to invest in 2 and 3 because of that. I just now wrapped it up. So what Bush is saying is, make sure as much as possible your first choice should be the one that you feel it resonates with your career and everything else. It doesn't have to be 50-50, but if you can, but also do make sure that you do justice to the others. Don't just pass them by. It also doesn't look well on your paper, Don't just pass them by. Also, for the second and the third one, make sure that you also write about those universities because they are as much important as the first one. So how do you write this? For me, I feel like this is an essay which has a cheat code, because the information you find it from the university's website. So what's about that course, you find it on the website. About the university, you find it on the website. About the professors, you find it on the website. About the university ranking, here in the UK, in the UK, it's like the universities have, they also like in a competition. They're in a competition. So they take the ranking seriously. They'll paste them on the website. The first thing you'll see on the website, we are number 1 in the development. We are number 1 in sciences. We are number 1 in water management. We are number 2 in this. We are ranked this in the world. So even the rankings, you'll find them on the website. So the essay has a cheat code, and the cheat code is the website. So do go on the university's website, read about it, and then link it to your future careers. Because this one is saying link it to your previous academic or professional work. If it doesn't link with your previous academic papers, you can also say that I want to learn ABCD because previously this is not what I studied, but I want to get it from this university ABCDE. I always say this: I studied a degree in hospitality management, but for my master's degree, I studied international development. What did I link it with? I linked it with my professional work because even though my academic was on hospitality management, my experience was in international development work. So I wanted a master's because I did not have the theoretical background for me to excel in my professional work and then go on to be a leader in the industry that I was hoping to be. So that's why they're saying you can link it to your previous academic. And they have given you a choice. Link it to your previous academics, or you can link it to your professional work. And that's the way you're going to convince them to say, okay, yes, this one needs to come, and or this one needs to go to this kind of university that he or she has chosen because she knows or he knows herself better to know that it's going to help them to be the leader that they are hoping to be. Yeah.
Thank you. Very, very powerful points there. Uh, Raphael, do you want to chip in something? There's something I want to chip in, but I don't know if you want to go first before I also chip in before we move to the
No,
next.
go ahead when you're done. Maybe you
Oh,
might end up saying the same thing I plan to say.
okay, okay. I think one of the important points I just wanted to stress was, uh, first of all, let me answer one of the questions someone put in the chat. You have to have a paragraph for each school. You don't lump them all together. So have one paragraph talking about the first choice. I'm choosing XYZ as my first choice because you write that, close it out, go to my second choice is this because in addition, the reason why I talked about it, it may not be 50-50 is because in the first choice, you're going to write about why you want to study that course. I'm going to study this at the university of this because I want to do this in my professional life. I want to do this in the future. I studied this previously, whatever. Place that context and then add why that school is the best place to go. One point is now will be if 3 people, or let's say if 10 people are applying for the Chevening scholarship and 10 of them have set the goal to tackle food poverty in the country. Remember, you're competing against people in your own country. So if 10 of you are saying you want to tackle food poverty in Nigeria, for example, and then 10 of you are writing essays, and one person is writing his first choice is the University of Edinburgh, so masters, and the second person is writing his first choice is the University of Southampton, so masters. And then if I was reviewing the essays, apart from the context of what you're writing, but if I go and check and you've picked a course that is ranked 12th in food poverty, and someone else has picked a course that is ranked first or second or third in food poverty, to me, I would believe that the person that's going to go to the school that's ranked first or second is in a better position to solve that problem than the person that's going to go to the school that's ranked 12th. The only caveat would be if you can now pinpoint what is special about the university that is ranked 12th, that is going to be very important to what you want to do in the area of food poverty, which is why the research is very important. You need to research exactly what this university is teaching in this course. You can't say that you want to tackle food poverty. Like I said, if someone is putting the first and second ranked in the UK and someone else is putting 12th or 15th ranked, but maybe that 15th ranked has a particular lab that is studying a particular thing, which is very, very integral to maybe you want to do, you talk about you want to improve the preservation of farm produce. Other people are tackling food poverty by creating more resistant crops to tackle adverse weather, or they want to research into better farming practices, or they want to research into how to make the soil more to have more yield within a year, or how to do rotational crops. But you want to tackle something that's based on preservation of crops from farm to market. And that university that's ranked 15th has a special facility that works on that. That is what you're going to write in your essay to make it show that this is why this is your first choice. And that is why that now shows that you now understand the problem and you understand where the solution is and you understand why going to get this master's is the solution. You can now put the one that's ranked first or second as your second choice because you say because even though they don't have the lab, they have links, they have some facilities, they have some lecturers, they have some professor that's doing something, or they are teaching this course or whatever. There may be another one that has another university that has a link to industry to show how something is being practicalized. Maybe people are going to do 2 weeks seminar with industry leaders as part of the course. That is something to highlight, maybe because you are working in the industry and that's an integral part of experience that you need to get. The first and second ranks may not have an industry-based interaction, which is why you may not choose them as your first or second choice, even though they are ranked 1 or 2. I think the next thing I want to say is I would advise go for course ranking over university ranking. Go for course ranking over university ranking. That the university is number one in the world does not mean that it's very good at teaching what you want to learn. I'll use my own example. When I was looking for universities, I just tell this story because it's good to tell stories. When I was looking for universities, the first thing I did was go to Google and type transport engineering in the UK, top universities. And Google brought out its list, and then I started copying out the list, And then after shortlisting, many people in Oxford, Cambridge, these are very prominent universities, but I have to find out that they don't have programs in that area, or they don't have very strong programs in that area. In fact, I didn't see any strong program in that area in Oxford that was teaching exactly what I wanted. So even though Oxford is ranked 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 in the world or in the UK, it's not where I want to go because it's not the best place to learn what I want to learn. So you need to also move away from university ranking and look at the actual course ranking, the course you want to study. That's why I gave that first example of the course ranking, because it's an important piece of information you can put in the essay, but don't say you want to go to University of Oxford because it's the best in the UK. It's best in the UK, okay, but does it teach what you want to learn? Does it have a program in what you want to do? Is it the best place to get the information or the development that you want to get? If the answer is no, and you've written a very beautiful essay praising Oxford University for having historical, great alumni, great network, great facilities, great professors, but that thing that you want to learn is not there, or it's not the best there, or it's not even in the top 10 of what you want to learn, I think that's shooting yourself in the foot, because if there's only 20 spaces in your country for people to go and study in Chevening, and out of 20, 4 people I want to tackle the same problem, and one person is putting the correct university, I think that person is going to have a higher chance than you that's put in the wrong place. Because at least if the people reading because people that read these essays, I think they're university professors as well, they are researchers. So some of them already know when you're talking about a particular school, they know what's there, or they know someone that's there, or they know some of the facilities that is there, which is why thorough research is very important. I think that's what I wanted to stress. The point is thorough research into the schools is very important. Go to the website, the UK universities, their websites are very thorough because they're advertising their services as an educational institution. They put everything there. If there's something that you're looking for and you don't see it on the website, or you don't know where it is, look for either admissions team or student support email, or just go to that contact us part at the bottom of the university website and click contact us and get their email and send them an email asking them a question. When they ask them a question about a particular lab, or ask them a question about a particular course, or ask them a question about a particular facility, if the person that gets your email cannot get the answer, the person will CC, copy in whoever has that information into that email. The person will answer you because they want you to be their students. They want you to come. So they will answer you and give you enough background information. So it's something that you can also do. Yeah, Raphael, let me now allow you to take the mic. I hope I've not said what you wanted to say.
In part, in part. So I just put up my Chevening essay for the first time since 2018 that I applied. I just checked and I still have it here in my system. So regarding, somebody asked a question about, which you also say that you need to give like one paragraph per school that you want to study. So, but what I think is, like you also say, your first choice take your time and talk about the school more, because it's like somebody, the way I see it, somebody asks you, okay, in within between these three things, what do you want? Like, I'm giving you the option to make three choices, and then I see that your choice is just focusing on one, even though you say, yeah, I can take this and this, but this is my main choice. So, and based on the reasons you've given me, I think I'm more inclined to believe in, that this is your choice. So your first choice should be, for me, I wrote more about my first choice. And then I think I used, I don't know, 3 or 4 lines for the other two choices. So somebody can easily say that this guy really, really wants to go to this university, right? So, but then it also makes sense if you are studying the same course, like Buchi said, for maybe agricultural, farming technology and farming science and farming, something. So if it's the same course, then you don't have to stress yourself. But it becomes difficult when it's different courses, and then your story becomes more difficult to even tell. So it's best, even if you don't want to go for the same course, but I would advise you to go for the same course, because I don't know why you'd be changing courses. But even if you don't want to, stick to one course, so that for the sake of your story being very short and precise, stick to one course or similar courses, right? If you're doing public health, stick to public health or global public health. I think they have different kind of public health these days now. So, but let them be hovering around public health, so that your story will just be very short, and you can easily connect them. So spend some time writing about the first school. That is what most people I've spoken with, that's what they did. And that is what I also did. I just checked my essay right now, even though I've read everything I wrote, and I'm I'm I mean, I've seen the reasons why people look at this now. What was this guy saying? This was in 2018. This was November 30th. No, 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 October 30th, 2018. That's when the last time this thing was modified. And I think that's the same time Commonwealth was also that shared, was I think so, around that same period. So I just read it now, and I just laughed at myself. Am I the one that really wrote this thing? It's not that bad, but I think if I am to write again this time around, I'll do better. So, but yeah, just focus on do more. Spend more time writing about your first school.
You know better now.
Yeah.
No, but it's a very important thing. I think I'm going to say this because we've said it in previous webinars. If you're applying for the second time or the third time, and you want to use the same set of essays that you used last time, it's not going to fly for two reasons. Number one is that it didn't fly the first time, so why do you think it's going to fly the second time? Why do you think a small modification is going to fix it? That's number one. Number two would be that if after 1 year you're still saying the same thing, it means that you're not growing as an individual. It means that you're not improving as a person. And that's like saying, after this 1 year masters, I may not improve because you didn't improve after 1 year of application process. So you've not been doing anything within the 1 year to make yourself a better person, a better candidate. Even just without Chevening, you should still be able to pursue your own personal goals. So you've not done anything to improve yourself, to choose your personal goals. Then you're coming back to Chevening again to say, please invest in me, even though I've not improved myself after 1 year. And then they're going to give you masters to do 1 year. So what guarantee would you give them that after 1 year in the UK you will improve? Because it's a very practical thing, if you ask me. Especially if you're maybe so unlucky that the same person reads your essay again. Because it's a possibility.
Yep.
The reviewers are the reviewers. It's possible that your essay lands on the same desk again, and the person is reading that person like, I've read this thing before. What's going on? If it does, even if similarity checker doesn't pick it up, because it's possible that in fact it's very likely similarity checker will pick it up as self-plagiarism. There is something called self-plagiarism. I did not know till I got to the UK, and it was one of the first things they taught us in orientation. What does it mean? If you submit an assignment, if they give you an assignment and you've written up a very nice paper and you've submitted it today, and they give you another assignment next month with a similar topic, and you take some paragraphs or some sentences from the first assignment you submitted and include it, that is plagiarism. You have plagiarized yourself, even though the first one came from your head, but you're not supposed to submit it the second time to get marks again. That's a very technical thing, and some people argue whether it's fair or not. But the point is that is the way the system is set up. Every submission must be a new original idea. which is why I would say that every submission for Chevening should also be a new original essay. If it's possible, you've written before, sit down on a blank sheet of paper and start again, reconstruct again. That would be my own advice. Take time, construct from the beginning to the end. Then go and read your previous essay and then see whether there's anything you want to pick from there to add or to pick from there to modify the new one you've written. But if you go, because there's this thing that happens when you go to something that's already been written and you're trying to edit, you're acting like a reviewer. So you're just doing small review. You won't know that you think you're changing things, but you're not really changing. And the structure of the story might break in the process of doing that. So this is just my own personal advice that I give people. I always tell people, you've applied before, yes, okay. Someone asked me to review. I said, you've applied before. I said, yes. I said, do you have the old dates? I said, yes. I said, okay. Put them in one folder, create a new folder, create a blank document, and write again. Just take your time. Write. It's just a draft. Write again. Because your mind now will be able to explore new ideas that and new experiences that you've had that fit into that context. When you go back to your old essay, you think that those examples are still the best examples because you don't give it much thought. But it's also, well, if you think about it on a blank slate, I think you'll be able to come up with, if there's a better example, you will know. If there's no better example, you also be able to know because you're on a blank page. You give your mind the opportunity to move around and explore your past experiences and come back and conclude this is the best example to put into this place. So we'll move to the last essay because we are fastly moving out of time and I'm trying not to allow this webinar to overclock it. So the last essay is the career goals essay. This one is very future facing. They want to know exactly what your plans are after school. This, you've said you're a leader, you've said you know how to build relationships, you plan to build relationships in the future, you want to study this course because you want to do this brilliant thing in your workplace, in your industry, in your sector, in your field. Okay. Say we give you this scholarship, say you come to the UK, say you study everything, say you graduate, say you come back home. What are you going to do with all that? How does this study help you achieve those goals? I think another one thing to also put in mind is whatever you want to write in this essay, this fourth essay, think about it. Is this something I can achieve without doing this master's in the UK? If the answer is yes, then you're not writing the correct thing. Because if you don't need the UK masters to achieve whatever you're going to write, I think you need to put better goals in. So I'll read out the prompt. Chevening is looking for individuals who have a clear post-study career plan. A clear post-study career plan. Please outline your immediate plans upon returning home and your longer-term career goals. You may wish to consider how these relate to what the UK government is doing in your country. So I'll talk very briefly. So I'll allow Chimowe and Raphael to talk a lot in this one. Let me not talk too much. First thing first, very clear post-study career plan. What do you want to do immediately you finish studying? What's the plan? Remember, if you're applying for Chevening, you're saying that you're going to come back to your home country after school. Therefore, whatever career plan you're doing is home country based. That's number one thing to note. Next thing is plans are designated into short term, middle term, long term. Some people can do short term and long term only if you're struggling for words. But in the short term, the first 2 years, think about it like this: the first 2 to 3 years, you come back, you finish studying. The scholarship you're applying for is to start studying in September 2025. Which means by September 2026, you'll be landing back home with a master's degree in your chosen field. In October 2026, what will you be doing? That is short term, immediate plan. What do you intend? In fact, from August 2026, you should be making plans already for the next thing you're going to start doing once you get this degree and you're home. So what is that thing that you're going to do? Are you going to go back to your current workplace? Are you going to seek employment in a new place? Are you going to found an organization? I think founding an organization as an immediate plan might be too risky, because you're just fresh out of the system. You might coming back. If you already have an organization that you founded, are you going to start upgrading it? Are you going to provide some training to some people? Maybe you're a lecturer in a university. Are you going to start doing seminars for your colleagues that have not been able to get a master's degree in the UK based on what you've learned? These are immediate plans that you're going to take. Because the whole point of this scholarship is that they want you to go and create impact in your country. And from the previous essay, you've talked about what you want to study. And by talking about what you want to study, you've talked about the kind of problem you want to solve in a particular sector or field, because that's very important. You need to choose a particular, like I always tell people, when you're applying for a scholarship that's talking about development or impact, you need to choose a particular goal, one goal that you want to focus on. That is what you want to achieve. Why is that important? It's important because you can quantify it. You can quantify. If you're if you're in a particular space, let's say you're in the health sector and you want to tackle communicable diseases, and the one you want to tackle is cholera, for example, and you already know that 70% of rural dwellers are at risk of getting cholera. Your goal will be to reduce 70% to 50%, because only you cannot take away the whole 70%. It's not possible. You can try your best, but I don't think it's realistic for one person to be the solution to 70% of communicable diseases. So you may say that you want to reduce it to 50%. That is your own personal long-term goal. Now, in the short term, you're going to come back, you're going to do some sensitization, you're going to talk to the Ministry of Health, you're going to write some research papers, you're going to publish some research, you're going to talk to some healthcare, the local healthcare providers, you're going to talk to the local healthcare agency, you're going to talk to the regulators, you're going to teach students in school, whatever you're going to do that may bring 70% to 68 or to 69 in 1 year. Those are some of the things that you can, or you want to bring down to 65 in 1 year. You already know how it's being measured. You should know how that 70% was measured. So you should be able to know the actions to take to bring 70% down to 65%. You can state that that's what you want to do in the first 2 to 3 years. Then the long term is that you want to bring it down to 50. No problem. You want to bring it down from 70 to 50. In the first 3 years, you can bring it down from 70 to 65. How are you going to get it to 50? You know how those things are being measured. You know the indicators. You know the risk factors. Then you know the activities that you're going to do to work on that. If it's policy that needs to be changed, you may not be able to change a policy in 1 year, but you can be able to change a policy in 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 15 years. You can draft a policy, make a bill, appeal to your representative, push for the bill to be passed into law, then allow the bill to be implemented, regulated, supervised, and you can be in the whole process of this whole process, so that in the next 25 years, you've brought it down from 70% to 50% by your own contribution. Few other people may also begin to work in the sector, and in the next 25 years, it might drop to 30, or it might drop to 25, or it might be gone. But you need to expand on how this is your career plan, and you also need to expand on what you'll be doing, the kind of positions you occupy, the kind of places you're going to go. Are you going to found an organization? Are you going to become a director somewhere? Are you going to become a lawmaker? Are you going to go into politics? Remember, you're a leader with influence. Are you going to become a policymaker? Are you going to become, even if you don't want to be the elected policymaker, are you going to come on the team of a senator or a representative? Are you going to be part of the advisory board? What are you going to do in the long term to ensure that you are going to tackle this problem? Because that is the only way to show that the what you are trying to do is achievable and it makes sense using the smart approach. It's when you quantify a problem and then you put steps on how to solve that problem and match it with your career prospects, I think it becomes a more realistic story, because you're saying that in order for this thing to stop, we need to have 50% more health professionals. How are we going to get 50% more health professionals? By investing more in health education. How are we going to invest more in health education? By changing the budget. How are we going to change the budget? By making it a policy. How are we going to make it a policy? I'm going to get involved in the policy. I'm going to get involved. So you now get involved in all those steps, and that becomes a realistic career plan. For me, that's a very practical story that you're going to tell. It means you understand the problem. It means you understand the context, and it means you understand how you can contribute to that solution. And then if there's something that the UK is doing in your country to help in that sector, maybe there's a UK project that the FCDO is undertaking to help against communicable diseases and things like that, you can now say that, whichever step it is that the UK, within this your plan, whichever step it is that UK program fits into, you can now collaborate with them, whether it's something from the DFID, or it's something from the FCDO office, or it's something from the UK mission in your country, whatever it is. If there's something the UK is doing in that sector, they would like to know that you're going to become a partner with them. Because if you get the scholarship, like they say, you're a Chevener for life. So you're not just a Chevener for the 1 year in the UK, you're a Chevener for life. So they want to know that you are going to be part of that network of individuals that they can work with to achieve those goals in your country. So I'll stop here and allow you where to go.
Okay. I think this is one of, I don't know, is it fair, right? I don't know. It's one of those cases where you can have challenges, but also easier if you know where you're going or what you have been doing. So the easiest way to write this essay is to just sit down, think of your future in 10 years' time. Where do you see yourself? So then you start breaking it down like immediately after you get this. So when you're thinking of 10 years time, that means your thinking is now at that particular time. What do I have right now? And then, as Butch said, in the goal, what do I hope to be in that future? Or 10 years, 20 years. That kind of forward thinking. And then in which sector am I? What's happening in my sector? Who are doing what? What are the challenges? What are the opportunities? So that means you're researching. So you're thinking about yourself, you're thinking about your sector. So when you're thinking about your sector, that means you have to do so much more of the research. You have to know what is it? What are the other people doing? Because you cannot be bringing in solutions whilst they're already happening. Or there are solutions that are also happening, but at the same time, you want to be part of that. You want to amplify this which is happening, because truth be told, you are not coming out. Chevening is not expecting you to come out of that 1 year and then do magic. No, you're still going to find people who've been in that sector for like for centuries or for forever. But you coming in, it's you're joining the people or the individuals who've made history. But still more, there's a lot more that needs to be done in that sector. So it's like you're not coming in on a blank slate. No. But you're adding in to the individuals or to the people that need to make a difference in your communities. That's why year in, year out, Chevening is still more saying, we need more leaders, because they know the work is too huge to be done by the people that have been there already. But also we know this is life. We grow up, others leave the stage, others come in to take the torch and they learn with it. So that's the whole essence of you thinking about the career plan. So the first thing that you need to do is to just think about yourself more, what you hope to be in the future. You might not have all the answers at one go, but at least you should have something in mind. Another thing which I know most often when we are writing this thing, we always rush to, I want to, in 10 years time, I want to do a PhD. One thing that I always tell the people that I review their essays to say that Chevening knows that with your masters, you can be a leader, you can be a president, you can do absolutely anything with your masters. And they also know that it's not wrong for you to pursue a PhD, but your leadership is not confined by you having a PhD or not. So even though the PhD might be something that you hope to do in 10 years, that might not be appealing. Think of how many people will write as a 10-year goal as being their PhD, So you have to at least think through properly. A PhD might still be important for someone in some kind of a field, which I'm not discounting that. But at the same time, we just have to think outside the box, not to fill up the essay just because you want to write something and the PhD is that, So think through, as Bush said, do you want to be an MP? Do you want to be a president? This one gives you the opportunity to dream something which you just see it maybe in movies, you just see it others performing in your community, around you, in your country. You can dream about it. But most importantly, relate it to the kind of work that you do currently. So you might be someone who is in an international development work, like me, someone who is in the engineering sector, someone who is in the water sector, like my colleagues here. But at the same time, they are aspiring to be the president of Nigeria. It's possible. It's not limiting just because you are in the water sector. Then you have to be you have to go back to be a lecturer or a tutor or someone else. Yes, you can be that, but also you can also exercise your leadership in other opportunities. So think through, think outside the box. Do not just fill it with words, but you can also be ambitious. You can dream. This one gives you the confidence, the ability to dream whatever it is that you want to dream. But you have to also to be realistic, smart. So that's where we say that there are people that are doing the same kind of work in your industry. So when you're proposing some of these solutions or some of the things that you hope to do in 3 years, for example, it has to be realistic. You're just finishing your university in 1 year. For example, you just finished your university and then you're saying, oh, when I come back, I am going to be the president. You'll be like, no, are you sure? So, but then you say, okay, I'm going to go back. This is what I'm going to do to my previous workplace. And afterwards, this is where I see myself after 5 years, after accumulating this kind of experience. This is where I hope to be. This is how I'm supporting the people or the companies that I'm working with. These the organizations that I'm working with. This is where I hope to do. This is how I want to influence some of these things. And in the longer term, my idea is to be the principal secretary of the water department. For this one, this is what I hope to change. Currently, there are these issues that are happening, but I think by that time we would have changed to this, and I want to be part of that system. And in our country, already UK, I would say UK in Malawi because I'm from Malawi. Already FCDO in Malawi, this is what they are doing as regards to this. So I want to be part of that system change, working with these funders, the FCDO, or these other organizations that are also working towards this. So you are not operating as an island, but you are operating within a system that is already there. So how do you know that? Still more, it goes back to you doing research. Research is the order of the day as you're writing the essays. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, okay. So I like how you ended on research, because you're planning to go and do a postgraduate degree, and research is always part of that. So, but I don't know if Raphael wants to say something as someone who's doing a PhD, and I know Chinwe said, you must not do a PhD. So let me try to poke the hornet's nest and ask Raphael.
Bushy. No, don't escort me. But this is something for applicants to think about.
No.
Yeah.
I understand exactly what you mean, because saying that you want to do a PhD. Okay, let me just say something on that. Saying that you want to do a PhD, how do you know that the PhD is going to be very essential in what you want to achieve? If you are sure that a PhD is very essential in what you want to achieve, then you can talk about it. But it's not just saying that you want to do a PhD because you say you want to do a PhD. How is a PhD plugging into the plan? Like I said, you want to achieve something, there's steps to achieve it. How does a PhD plug into those steps to achieve it? If there's no direct link between a PhD and what you want to achieve, then a PhD might not be the best thing to mention. Not like you will not do it. You will do many things. You will go to conferences, you will travel, you do partnerships. You may not mention everything that you're going to do. You measure the most important things, the key things. So, Raphael, let me allow you to now comment on that.
Okay, so I'll start from that last comment before I go into my own, comment about this part of the essay. So, yes, she's right. A PhD is not like you don't really need a PhD to be a consultant, actually. What you need is a master's to be a consultant. 𝐿𝐻𝐿 is here. So,
because we started talking about PhD, 𝐻𝐿𝐻 came.
Exactly. I think she's still trying to connect to audio.
Yeah, go ahead. She will come in.
All right. So some people think that PhD is another another degree. It is actually, but some people see it as, oh, maybe like it's another after my primary school, secondary school, university, masters, PhD. So they see it as these are the things you need to acquire. But actually, PhD is like a research. There's a problem you want to solve, and so ideally, people don't start doing PhD unless they want to solve a problem. So maybe where you're working, as whatever you're working. Actually, people that need a PhD are those who are maybe academics. They're the ones that need PhD before they can progress. But others are just there to solve a problem. So unless there's a problem, then there's no need for you to do a PhD, right? As a matter of fact, it's even a big disadvantage for you if you are not in academia. Yes, is it because if you spend all your time schooling without any experience, any industry experience, when they place you side by side with somebody with a bachelor's degree, the person with a bachelor's degree gets more, can easily be hired more than you, because one, you've already spent some time in school, so you are old, and secondly, you don't have any experience at all. All you have is just like theoretical knowledge. While this other person is younger and have like the same a bachelor's degree, so he might be smart faster than you in learning and all that. So for me, if you don't have a maybe you don't want to go into academia, or you don't have any problem to solve, your master's degree is just enough, right? Now, this I mean, we might have a different opinion about that, but this is my opinion. So everybody with their opinion. Now, regarding this part of the essay, I think this is an essay that or this kind of prompts cuts across almost all the essays I've seen, all the scholarship essays I've seen. They want to know what you want to do when you finish your PhD, sorry, your master's immediately, and maybe in the long term. Even Commonwealth also have similar essay, and even that question that says you may want to, let me look at that prompt again. It says you may wish to consider how this relates to what the UK government is doing in your country. Now, the one I wrote for my Commonwealth shared scholarship essay was, I looked at, I'm going to study water and sanitation, and then I looked at what is the UK government doing in Nigeria regarding water and sanitation. And I found, I think it was a 2016 document. I can't remember exactly what year. So what I did was I looked at it and I had to bring it into my essay. And I remember that was one of the points that actually gave me that scholarship, because when I went there, the person that read the essay, because shared Commonwealth Shared Scholarship is a school that nominates you. So the people that actually nominated me, I remember the man, he didn't really give himself up, but he said something about that as we're conversing, and I knew he was one of those that read my essay. In fact, they had another set of interview for me when I came into the school. It was not like an interview, but they were discussing with me. But it was later on I got to know these guys were actually trying to assess me, right? So we're just discussing, and they kept talking about it. Now, if I had just copied that and pasted it, I would have, even though I've gotten the scholarship, they can, in quote, chase me back at that point. But then they will know this guy he's not serious about what he wrote. So I read that document very well, and then I got the point of the document, and I'm going to just read it a bit here. So what I said here is, I talked about how I'm going to help in implementing the UK support to Nigeria's future growth and development through sanitation, hygiene, and water in Nigeria, which is a project aimed at providing 4.68 million Nigerians with safe and reliable water supply and access to sustainable sanitation facilities by 2020. So when I saw that document, I read the whole thing, then I summarized it, and that was like the 4 lines I took from that document and I put it there. Now, what some people do, what the mistake some people make here is that some of them just finished school, like in Nigeria. I've seen some people that just finished, they're even serving. So, or some of them have not even gone for service, and like the national service within Nigeria. And then they wrote that they don't have a job. When they are going to ask you to put your CV, and you put that you don't have a job. Now, they look at when you graduated. Maybe this is 2024, and you just graduated by by July or August, and you're applying for the scholarship. Now, when you look at your career, is your career plan now. You said that upon returning, because first thing, you don't have a job. So what are you going to do? You can't make an impact without having a base or a foundation. So you need to talk about that foundation first. Now, if you were working somewhere, like Chinwenwe said, if you're working somewhere, then try to find a way to use where you're working to like fit into your first your short-term career goal and then your long-term career, plan. So if like I was lecturing in Nigeria before I went for my master's, I was a GA, and I talked about how my department, helps in working with the local communities in treating their water, right? We're doing that at a local level, assessing the water quality and all that. Now that has placed me, is like an advantage for me or an opportunity for me. So even when I get this my knowledge and degree back, I can use those experiences and knowledge I gained. So I have like people I'm working with. Now I can also use this, since I already have like a base. The university is in a community, is in a rural well, it's no longer a rural community because it's already developed a bit, but then it was. Now I can actually because I mentioned the things I'm going to do, like I mentioned the equipment I already know how to do them. I think I talked about the ceramics water filter and how somebody's already doing it in the school there, and how I want to also be able to use that and apply it in this community. Now, and I measured how Buchi talked about the percentage, like are you going to maybe reduce mortality by 60% from 60% to 40%, and how is it going to be measurable? So I was I won't say detailed, but I was very precise about that, the numbers and everything. And I think that was one of my best essays, because even to me, after reading it, I was like, this is good. And it was not unrealistic. Like some people just talk about something unrealistic. Some people talked about I will influence policy change. I mean, you are just leaving university. How do you think you're going to influence policy change? Who do you know? Do you work with the Ministry of maybe you work with the National Assembly, for example, you're a data analyst in the National Assembly. And then with that position now, when you show statistics to the policymakers, you can easily influence policy change because you're already working there as a data analyst. So this is where most people, after writing something, because in the other part of the essay, it's not that difficult, but because this one is looking at the reality on ground. Where are you coming from? What have you done? So if you don't have any career yet, because it's like your job, sort of, your role. So some people talk about opening an NGO. Now, all along, they can see your track record. You don't have any NGO. If someone like 𝐸𝐸𝐬𝐬 talks about having an NGO in in education, I mean, we can see from her record that she's been doing this. So if she says she wants to, have an NGO, we know she has the capacity to do that. She lectured in Nigeria. She has been doing this, webinar and stuff. So it's easier for me to look at it and see, oh, this is actually her career, right? And she has the capacity to do this thing. So what I'm trying to say here is, even if you want to package, I want to say, like, even if you want to package your story, you might overpackage the story. Because then if somebody is reading it, because the person has read everything you've written, this is like the deciding part now. Okay, when this guy finishes, what he's going to do? If it's not too clear, or it looks over ambitious, or it's not, it means that this person doesn't, to me, if I'm the one reading the essay, that's the point where I'll be like, man, okay, this guy just, writing beautiful stories, but it's not realistic. So I will just shift it to one side. There are people, and that's in Chevening. One thing I tell people is, Chevening is not for everybody. That's the truth. If you are smart, you have first class, and go and try Commonwealth. Leave Chevening alone. That's my own opinion, because Chevening is not looking for people who are like educationally smart or whatever. They're looking for leaders. They're looking for influencers. They're looking for network people, like people who are winning Chevening. If you see them, though these days now you can see like people who are young, kind of. Before, if you see people who win Chevening, these are not, when you see them, these guys have like, and that's why they ask you for 2 years, minimum of 2 years work experience, because you should have been working. You should have been making some influence. Again, don't let it deter you. I'm not trying to, but I'm just saying, like, that is my own view. People who, go for the Chevening scholarship are those who are already leaders in their sphere. So that's why when they ask you some of these questions, it's like, okay, you've been doing this, then tell us going forward, what are you going to do, right? So again, but even if you don't have what's it called, even if you're not a leader like that, I mean everybody have leadership capacity, right? So maybe I shouldn't have said this, but it's just my opinion. So that's what I think. Anyway, so back to the essay. So you need to make it very practical, make it very realistic, right? So that people that, because this is a point where someone like me will actually like discard an essay if it's sounding unrealistic. I think Chinwenwa said that if it's sounding too unrealistic, then I'll just throw it away. So I think this is where I will have to stop for now. Thank you.
Yeah. Just quickly, Angie, before you come in, um, just not to discourage our viewers, for the work experience, Chevening has said, even with your volunteering. So that's why I think even when you are in school, be please work with other people, do volunteer activities. If you have volunteer activities, you are just coming out of school, they'll take that as part of your work experience and consider you for the scholarship. And if you are doing this kind of volunteering like 4 years, 4 years in your school, by that time you also develop your own communication skills, you develop yourself as a person, you know. So by the time you write these essays, it will not even be difficult for you to be fumbling through what is my experience, what do you want, what do I want to become, because the 4 years gives you the platform to try as many things as you can and to know yourself, which field do I enjoy, which what are my passions, what are the things that I want to do for the foreseeable future. At least it gives you that option to try this thing. In the first year you feel no. So maybe we might have like some other people who are watching us, they are in school right now, they just want to know what chevening is all about. You can apply straight from the uni, but all you have to do to showcase that you have some experience is you having that voluntary experiences that you have from your school. So be you can apply for it, as you don't have, it's not a limiting factor, but also having industry experience makes you to be it just places you at another advantage because you have tested what the industry is all about, and you might have some much more experience in terms and exposure, and in terms of having also the kind of um tutor yourself as well to see that I think I can survive in this industry than the voluntary one. Because when you enter into the industry, then that's when you know, oh, okay, there's heat or not, or maybe I need to change my careers. It just depends on how you know yourself. Some people know themselves earlier on from the uni, so it doesn't have to deter you from applying. But yes, having the experience gives you an edge, just like Raphael has said.
Okay. Very important points. Just to add to that, like I want to give something practical so that maybe people can understand the point very well. If we are talking about, for example, if you say that you want to be a researcher as a career, for example, and as a student, you were in university for 4 years, for example, and in the first year you're helping out one of your lecturers to do some research work in the lab as a volunteer. Maybe you're there, you're analyzing data or you're sorting data for them. And then in the second year, you're helping them to walk through some experiments in the lab. And in the third year, you're helping them to write up reports. And by the fourth year, you're helping them to write research papers because you've gotten to that point where you understand the context. That is 4 years of volunteering without a job title per se, but you've gotten more experience as a researcher than someone that was employed as a graduate assistant this year or last year. They've been there for like 1 year, but you've been following the work of research with your lecturer, collaborating, doing different things. You've analyzed data, you've been in the lab. You don't have a qualification as a bachelor's degree for that, but you have the experience of doing it. So if you're now telling us that you want to be an academic or you want to be a researcher, you want to work in R&D in a particular agency or in a particular company as your immediate plan on coming back, it's a realistic thing to say, because you've been doing something like that even as a volunteer, even though it's not paid employment, but you have work experience, because there's a difference between paid employment and work experience. So I think we also need to put that in context for anybody as a student that may be listening. These are some of the things that you can do to actually put yourself ahead of the others, because well, the whole world is a competition, kind of. You need to be ahead of your peers to get ahead in life. So you need to do something extra if you want to get extra results. So that's just like a practical example. So you can think about it in, if you want to do in finance, you can go and volunteer with a bank as an analyst. You can go and volunteer with a financial institution. If you walk up to a profit making institution and tell them, I want to work with you guys for free, I'll do 3 days a week or 4 hours 5 days a week or something. I'll just be assisting the most junior person in the office, for example. You're just there. Don't pay me. I'll just be here working. I just want to get some experience. I just want to learn what's going on here. There may be some terms and conditions. Some people say yes, some people say no. There's no problem. If they say no, you don't lose anything. You are not going to be paid anyway. So you can, and from there, they can start considering you for paid employment, etc., etc., etc. So I just wanted to put that there because it's an important point to make, so that people can think about this as practically. It's not like you're saying something that's, a fairy tale in the sky. I don't know if 𝐻𝐸 wants to speak, because she's been here and she's been quiet. She came in when we were talking about PhDs, and it's always one of those important issues. So I don't know if she wants to say anything, but if not, maybe I'll walk through some of the questions. I know we've answered some of the questions that came in the chat, but I want to just go back and check if there's any
Mhm.
important question that's left. So while I'm doing that, 𝐻𝐸, if you have a few words to say, you can say that very briefly. I know we've exceeded the time a little bit, so I'm just going to scroll through the questions very quickly and pick the ones that we may not have touched on.
Okay,
So if you,
just to cut off time, thank you so much. All I want to say is please don't go and overpackage that become too expensive to buy.
Yeah.
That is what I have to say. Okay.
okay, thank you. So going through the comments, I see one question from Tolu that says, it's asking whether you need to apply for admission. I think we've talked about that. We've talked about how the process to apply for admission is. So complete your Chevening application, and then you sort out the admission letter, and then they will ask you to upload your admission letters later on. So I think that's the process. I think that's a satisfactory answer. If the answer is not okay, you can follow up with a follow-up question. Next question is asking whether can you submit unofficial transcript for masters. I will be very cautious to answer this question because I'm not the university admission team. So I don't know what I would say is a requirement, but I would just say this. If you mean unofficial transcript in terms of student's copy, because in transcript there's what they call a student's copy, which is the one the university gives to you as the student, and then there's the one that the university sends directly to whichever institution that you're asking for. I know that most universities in the UK accept the student's copy. They don't need you to tell your university to send your transcript directly to them, unless on a case-by-case basis. But I know for the initial admission application, you can use a student's copy transcript, which is a transcript issued by your university to you, the student. You can use that to fill in applications. I don't know if anyone else has a different experience.
Yeah, they actually collect student copy. But what I want to know is if it's referring to the scholarship or the admission. And so I think the best thing to do is if you don't have your transcript ready, because it happens a lot, email the school. They have what they call advanced copy. Just email them and hear what they say and just follow the process. Sometimes these things are flexible, but you need to email to confirm.
I think maybe it's also referring to the university itself, the Chevening application.
Okay.
If the person maybe doesn't have that official transcript yet they are yet to graduate, then they haven't, but there's this other transcript that they also provide. I think it's a provision or something. I think they can, yeah, the advanced or provisional that they can as well upload it, because at some point there's also a deadline for you to submit all your transcripts and or certificates. So the thing is, before you even start the application process itself, is to check on the Chevening timeline, because on the timeline there's a set deadline where you're supposed to also submit all the required documents. So if by that time you'll not have any official documentation, then I think it puts you at a disadvantage. If you not have graduated or your school will not provide the certificate or the transcript, that will also put you at a disadvantage. So the best way to answer this is to go to the Chevening timeline and check how you fare.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Next question. How many points are required to support each essay? And how best to present a good essay? And is there any format of the essays? So I think we've touched on this when we said 3 examples is a good kind of benchmark for each of the
Mm,
questions. And I think
yeah.
we've walked through the structure. So if you have a follow-up, you can let us know. Next question. Is it okay to present 2 examples or points in the leadership essay from single location? Example being a leadership in 2 different scenarios at the college, for example. Okay, so in essence, my this is my own opinion. In essence, the answer to this should be yes, because you can have 3 leadership examples from your workplace. Maybe you've been working in
Mm,
your workplace for 5 years, and you have 3 leadership examples from your workplace, and they're all very relevant. I don't think it's bad if especially if they are diverse examples, not like you doing the same thing 3 times, but you
mm,
doing 3 different things. So you can do 3 different things maybe when you are in school or when you are working. But if you have good examples from different organizations, me, I won't say location, I will say organizations now. If you have 2 different examples, so maybe in school, you had a position in your department, and you also had a position in a club or society that was under the university but was not part of academics or something like that. It's still okay. But if you had like 2 examples from maybe one post in your department, it's good. But if you can diversify, it's better. But if you have 2 strong examples, that are very strong examples, talking about the particular sector or industry where you're working in, where you've done 2 very different amazing things and achieved good results, I think those are your best 2 feet to put forward. So me, I would say go with those 2. I don't know if you guys have any contrary opinion on that.
no, you've answered it correctly. The only thing is, do not repeat. Do not repeat the same answers.
Okay. Another question. What about paying someone to review the essay? Okay, I think this is when we're talking about plagiarism and people viewing the essays.
No, I
Uh,
not. It's not about plagiarism. I'm thinking, for example, me as a mentor, someone else comes to me to say, okay, can you review my essay? And then I say, yes, I can review for you, but at a fee. I think that's a personal choice. I can choose. I can decide tomorrow to start
charge you
reviewing.
fees
Yes,
as a
yes,
consultant.
as a consultant, because it takes time. I mean, it takes time, and that's your knowledge. People sell knowledge these days, so it's okay if you find someone else who says that. Okay, I'm putting in my my language, but yeah, if you find someone else who is going to review your essays at a fee, that's okay. But the thing is, even if you pay or someone else doesn't pay, the thing Chevening, getting the Chevening scholarship, there's also some kind of grace, luck, or whatever it is that you have. So even if you have paid, that doesn't guarantee that you're going to get the scholarship. So you have to be realistic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Me, I also look at it from a different view that says,
Mm.
if you're paying for a service, it's fine. Obviously, anyone can
Mm.
pay for a service. We could have sold tickets to a webinar like this, and people would buy tickets to attend this type of
Yes.
program. So it's also there. But for me, it's my own. This is just personal advice. Make sure that if you're paying for a service, it's a good service. Number one, and also that
Mm-hmm.
you understand that if even if a previous Chevening scholar held your hand and you guys wrote the essays together, there's no guarantee that you get the scholarship.
Yes.
That's just something that you need to put at the back of your mind and know it. If you want to subscribe to Grammarly, for example, to check the grammar of your essay, that's fine. That's okay, because maybe you don't trust your own structuring or your grammar skills. You can use things like that to walk through the essay, but there's no
Yeah,
guarantee that if you pay, you're going to get a better
grammar
result.
grammar sometimes also changes the meaning of what you're writing, so you also have to be careful with
Another
that.
good point. Another good
Yes.
point. Okay. The
No,
next question
wait,
says,
wait, but you hold on. You said that Ola would you charge for the webinar? Don't mind me. Let's move on.
oh, there are people that sell tickets for things like this.
Uh,
So
Yeah.
I don't know.
no,
Because
let's
not
move
because
on.
it's just to know, let people know that because we are doing it for free doesn't mean it's
Yeah,
free everywhere.
yeah.
Yeah,
Everyone
it's
will do
not
Yeah.
it.
for free for
We're
everyone.
trying
Yes.
Not
to bridge that gap. That's why we give it out for free. We want people to
Mm.
get sponsorship to build their education. So that's why we do it. Yeah. Okay. The
yeah.
idea
So
is out of my head. Take it out. Take it out.
mhm. Next question is: do you plan on going back to Nigeria after? I don't know if this question is at me or someone else, but okay, because the whole audience is not from Nigeria, so let me just reiterate: if you're going for a Chevening scholarship, you are signing up to 1 year in the UK, and after your studies, returning back
Going
to your
back
home
home.
country to work. That is why everything you're writing in the essays is about your plans in your home country, your
Hmm.
immediate plans in your home country, your long-term plans in your home country. So after studying, you will go back and effect those plans in your home country. Chevening will book your flight. The way I describe it to people is this: Chevening will pick you up from your house or your parents' house, wherever you are, take you from there, take you to the UK, put you in the UK for 1 year, put you in school, feed you, take care of you for 1 year. And once they've done that and you've finished the studies, they will also take you from the UK where they kept you and return you back to wherever they picked you up from.
Mm.
So that is the process. That is why they pay for your flights to go to the UK, pay for your warm clothing allowance, pay for your feeding, pay for your school fees, everything. Once that's done, they also pay another flight and take you back to wherever you came from.
And
I think there's
continue your readership journey.
yeah, continue whatever you were doing before they picked you up. So just so you know, that's the process. That's what you're signing
Oh
up for.
my goodness. Okay.
Yeah. So the next question: when writing this essay three, do we have to explain for individual schools separately, or we explain in general? I think we've talked about this one about
Yeah, we've
using
talked
different
about this
paragraphs
one.
for different schools and courses. Next one. On school searching, there are unis that are marked Chevening partners and some are not. So do I only have to pick schools that are Chevening partners? If it's an open choice that I can get other schools that are not Chevening partners, am I lowering my chances of being picked for the scholarships?
But
Um
can I come into this?
yeah,
I
go
have
ahead. Go ahead.
this other thought that came to me. When I was also applying for the scholarship, there was this there was much talk in terms of shaving partners or not or whereabout. When I went into the system, I only selected the schools that were appearing in the in the Chevening system, where they were marked partners or not. That was for me. That's what I did. That's generally me. What I did was it's just to go back out of the system, find the university, come back, go into the portal. Is the school appearing in the portal? Click that, put it in the system. That's generally that. I didn't have to worry much about the Chevening partnership and all of that kind of thing. Because if it's appearing on the portal, for me, I feel like definitely they are going to fund it. That's me. That's my take on this one.
Yeah, I think that's my take as well. If it's on the drop
Mm-hmm.
down menu on the portal,
Mm-hmm.
it's an option.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yes.
you should go with it.
Yeah.
Next one. Oh, Chuma, this one's directly for you. Okay, I think you said you sent the link to Search
I
University.
sent them here. I don't know. They are not appearing on Facebook. This person is watching us from Facebook. So I sent a couple of links.
Oh,
Um
okay.
yes,
Maybe
yes.
send
Okay.
it to 𝐒𝐤𝐬 and 𝐒𝐤𝐬 can
Yeah.
post it on
Can you
Facebook.
send it to me on the private chat? I'll post it on Facebook.
Okay, all right. Let me just press now. All right.
Yeah, okay. Okay, I think this is a comment also saying the same thing we said.
Okay, great.
If the university is on the list. Are there any more questions?
Yeah, there are. They're still on LinkedIn and Facebook. I mean LinkedIn. So let's finish
Oh,
it.
okay. The Chevening scholarship for this year has a cap of 22,000 Great British pounds. What happens if my first choice university tuition is beyond what Chevening offers?
Hmm.
Hmm. This is a question I would say you should ask Chevening.
Yeah.
I love that because we
Hmm.
Yeah, I think
Hmm.
because I know that they usually have the cap because of people that want to do an MBA, and they
Yes.
tell the people that want to do an MBA that if your course fees exceed that cap, you will pay the balance. But I don't know about now that other because I know many of the top schools in the UK, maybe their fees are above £22,000. So if Chevening has put £22,000, I don't know if that means they're excluding most of those schools. And so I think the best option is go to the Chevening website. There's an email to email them, ask them what that means. It might be
Hmm.
that we don't understand what the cap is for, or maybe it applies to some certain situations. So me personally, I don't know. So I think that's the best option. Email Chevening; they will respond to answer you. Is this being recorded? Yes, it is being recorded and it will be available on the platform that you are watching us from immediately after we finish. Next question. I just saw this today. Alternative English language qualifications, WAEC. Does this mean I don't need to take IELTS? A huge thanks to our amazing mentors for organizing this. I have learned a lot. As someone that used WASSCE certificate as my proof of English language, I would say that is most likely what that means. So for those in West Africa that write the WAEC exam, some schools have a minimum of C6. I think some do C5 in English language on your WAEC result. And some will accept your original WAEC certificate as a scan. Some will ask you to buy a scratch card from WAEC so that they can check your result on the online portal. So that is an alternative for people that wrote the exam. Sometimes it is accepted as proof of English language instead of IELTS and TOEFL and the rest of them. So that's the answer to that one. Any other anybody else with an alternative view?
Yeah, I think that's the same thing. Even if they go there to their respective countries, it's just for them to check their certificates. For example, they have they call high school diplomas or high school certificate of education. For example, in my country, so some schools do accept such in place of IELTS, but also do check if they accept other English language specifications. I think we've talked about Duolingo here. We've talked about TOEFL. So those other alternative English language qualifications, apart from IELTS, if they do accept, even in the same schools, some other departments may accept others, and the other departments might not accept. It's just a matter of checking your course, because someone else will say, "Oh, university, this kind of university doesn't will allow you with your high school diploma," but checking your department, they will say this is a condition that they've put. They want you to write IELTS. So it just depends on with the department, even if it's the same university. So the answer is go back to your course, to the department, and ask. If it's not appearing for your country, an email to the department. Yeah.
Good. Very important. Always email to ask. Always
Mhm.
email to ask. I
Yeah.
think I emailed to ask in my during my own application. That's how I found out that because yeah, I think I've said this story before. I got a conditional offer. They asked me to write IELTS, etc., etc. Then I responded with an email telling them, from an English speaking country, I did all my degrees in English. This is a letter from my university saying that I studied in English. This is my WAEC results showing that I passed English language, etc., etc. And then they, responded, okay, that's enough. So sometimes,
Mm.
even when they say that they accept or they don't accept this or that, it can be treated on a case by case basis.
Yeah.
So I always say, just ask, send an email, send an email. The university wants you to come and study with them. Send them an email. They will respond to you.
I also did the same. I sent an email, a lengthy one with so many reasons. I've worked with these international organizations and all of that kind of thing. The longest email ever. But they said, no, we still want you to write an English exam.
Yes.
However, you're lucky. The university is going to pay for you and we're also accepting Duolingo. So why I always talk about Duolingo, because that was an alternative, and I had limited time, but they accepted Duolingo. That university, that department accepted Duolingo. So yes, so sometimes if you are applying, sometimes they'll tell you that, oh, students from sub-Saharan Africa, for example, or students from West African countries, for example, we fund them to write for the English language. So we'll fund for you, write for the exam, and then we're going to pay it for you. So it only takes an email for you to find out that those kind of things exist.
Okay. Our
Right.
next question says, is there any special format for the essays? To be honest, I don't understand the
No,
question.
is there like a format in terms of how do you write it? There's no special format. However, even if you go on the Chevening website, they do encourage that your essays should be written using the star approach. So if there's any format that the Chevening encourage, is for you to use the star approach as you are presenting your answers, or your answers to your questions. So if there's any format, that's it.
Okay. Uh, Edro, do we have any more questions? Maybe from
Yeah,
LinkedIn?
just to say, so we have on from LinkedIn, just to Jacqueline and future people posting on LinkedIn, your post can only appear if you go to the LinkedIn video and tap join, then type. But if you type on the comment, it cannot appear. So that's what I discovered. So that's why, but now it's appearing because I had to copy it.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. So on impact, are we supposed to add figures? My advice would be very short and simple. If you have the data, present the data. If you have the data, present the data. And why I say this is because if you have the data, I expect that you understand the data. So if you're dealing in a problem that says 50% of XYZ is happening, you should be able to understand where 50% came from. And then you should be able to understand, if I do these activities and those activities and these activities, I will be expecting 50% to drop to 20% or 50% to drop to 49%. So if you understand the way those figures are coming about, you will be able to understand what kind of impact your own personal contribution can make. I think that's the best way I can describe it. So if you understand how something is being measured, you can be able to understand how your actions can influence the impact in that space. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It really does. Nothing to add except for the second one. I think it's still from the same person. Can you talk about how you mobilize the community on tree planting exercise in leadership, and talk about how you manage to raise funds for buying seedlings through network? I don't know. I think this is an example that you, Bucci, had talked about. But
Oh,
yes, yes. But I'm thinking you had tackled that quite extensively, and you provided like an example of how you write that in a leadership. But also,
yeah.
I think this is very specific. So if you want to go back to it, it's very specific to tree seedlings. I don't know. I'm not so sure that anyone here on the platform will still talk about tree seedlings. But you can go ahead and talk
Let
about.
me let me try. Let me
Yeah.
just try to answer the question simply. It was an example, it was an instance I was giving.
Mm,
I've not done that
mm,
kind of work before. But basically, what I'm going to say is this: your leadership essay is talking about, like I said, the star approach. This is the situation. This is the task. This is the action. If the action is tree planting, for example,
mm,
that's what you did. Sorry, if the task was tree planting, for example, and then the action you took is that you led the team to raise funds, and then the result is that you got the funds and you planted the trees. So the story you're going to give is what you did as a leader, how you got the initiative to walk through the fund sourcing. You can mention you reached out to some of your networks as a leader and worked with your team, and then you guys got the funding and the trees. If you come to networking, you're going to talk about, you've mentioned you reached out to your network. When you come to network, you are not going to be talking about we wanted to plant trees, we wanted to get funding for trees, we planted the trees. You're going to be talking about, I know 𝐒𝐤𝐬 because we work on LinkedIn. We met on LinkedIn. We met at a conference. I know she works in this organization. We collaborated on this in this conference. We reached out, we connected. When we were trying to plant trees, I reached out to her because she works with XYZ body that funds this kind of initiatives. And through our mutual relationship, because the body was interested in planting trees, we were able to raise $500 for the planting of trees. That is the example in networking. In networking, you're not going to start talking about why planting trees is or how your team went about planting those trees. You're going to talk about the relationship you have with 𝐒𝐲𝐬, how you built it, what you guys are doing together. And in addition to just planting trees, also talk about other things that you and 𝐒𝐲𝐬 have been doing together or other collaborations that you have done with other people as well. If that makes any sense, I think that's the way I'm going to answer that question, but it's very specific. So if you have if you need a deeper understanding or you want us to discuss further, I'm open. You can reach me out. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn and we can chat and dig into the example properly. So I can just leave it at that because we've taken a lot of time and I want us to close now because I
Yes.
actually have to. I also have to go and do some other things now. So I think that's 𝐒𝐲𝐬. Do we have more questions?
No, I
I
think that's all.
Oh, okay,
Everything.
okay, wonderful. So if that is the end, usually I'll tell the speakers to give their last words, and Raphael has had to drop off because he had other engagements. So just so you know, that's why you didn't see him because we kind of overshot our time. But I think we've been able to do justice to the topic in general. The only thing I'll say is if you need to reach out to any of the mentors, just reach out to them on LinkedIn, send them a message, tell them what you want. Don't send them a message. Please come and help me write essay, or please come and read my essays for me. They may or may not have the time to review your essays, but they can answer specific questions. If your questions are smart, please ask smart questions so that you get smart answers. I'm having trouble with this, and this. Can you please help me? That's how it works. So that brings us to the end of today's session. There's no time for parting words, unfortunately. So I just want to thank everyone for listening and being part of the discussion. I enjoyed your questions. I could see that the audience was engaging very well in the session. So please, if we would organize another session to talk about Chevening, we will let you know. But for now, this recording will be available for you to always come back and review and read and look into it. So that's all I'm going to say for now. And I'll just say have a good evening or have a good day wherever you are. And if you listen to this recording later, just try to implement some of the strategies that we've outlined. You should be able to come up with a very good essay, and then you can begin to review and edit. And all the best as we approach the deadline. Have a good day, everyone. Thank you.